Welcome back to the PFF NFL show. Trevor, Sikkema, Dalton, Wasserman, here with you guys to talk about every single game that we saw in Week 13 of the NFL this year. Dalton, we got a full slate because it was the holidays. So we got 16 games on the schedule. Obviously, 15 have already been played. We got Monday Night Football coming up tonight. But this ended up being a pretty fun slate. I think when we looked at it, we were like, okay, the holiday games, they're going to be great. The Thanksgiving Day games, the Black Friday games, those are going to be great. But then we're like, the Sunday slate, I don't know about this one. And we were all watching the game here at the office yesterday, and even the games that, okay, maybe not the best teams in the world doing battle, they're actually pretty fun. They gave us some pretty big moments. So there's a lot to talk about this week. How you doing, my friend?
You certainly feel the sense of urgency as we get from November and into December today, actually, December 1st today. And you just feel that increased sense of urgency from all those teams that, look, every win now matters, right? You got certain teams fighting for their survival, whether it be in their division or for a wild card spot. And it just feels like the intensity of these games is getting greater every single week. It's really fun to watch so far. And we got 3 days of absolutely awesome NFL football this week.
December 1st is here. You mentioned it. You know, break out the Mariah Carey. It's Christmas season, baby. And because of that, whoa. What do you mean, You not a Christmas guy at all?
No, just the song is overplayed.
Oh, okay.
It's more the music thing.
I think that's also disrespectful, but I can at least let that slide a little bit. I thought you were about to be like, Christmas isn't that big of a deal, kind of.
Oh no, it's a big deal. It's just they got to come up with some new songs. They got like the same 3 or 4 they play all the time. You know.
That is true. The classic Christmas channel. I don't know the last time we've got a new song that has been on that channel, but. They all slap, you know, and I'm not going to sit here for the disrespect.
No, I get it. You know, it's just when it's an everyday thing, you know. I mean, I get it. It's the season and all, but just widen the rotation just a little bit.
I'm going to start telling the producers that they're going to use that. They're going to use oldies Christmas music as the intro just to get to you.
We got to write a PFF Christmas song. That's what we'll do. I don't know what in the hell that would sound like.
I don't know what that would, but you know what?
We'll figure it out.
You could start. Actually, I know a good place to start for that. Look at this transition. PFF Plus subscription. The only way that you're going to write a PFF Christmas song is with the PFF Plus subscription, which right now, still 40% off, folks. This is the last day. If you were watching this live, this is Monday when we're doing this show, this is the last day for 40% off. This is one of the biggest sales that we've ever done here. It's never going to get cheaper than this right here. 40% off a PFF Plus subscription using the promo code Black Friday. Black Friday still works here on Monday, December 1st. I know Black Friday was a couple of days ago, but we still love you guys, so we extended the sale a little bit here. If you don't have that PFF Plus sub, now is the best time to get it. Get yourself 40% off. See all of the grades that we're going to talk about here on this show. All the data points, the fantasy football tools, the betting tools, the draft tools that we'll have in a couple of months, which we know that you guys will use a ton of. Now's the best time to get it. Subscribe.pff.com. Use that promo code Black Friday. Get yourself 40% off. We're going to do a lot of things here on this show. We're going to talk about the top 5 graded players for every single team in every single game, or the 15 games that obviously have happened so far. And we're going to give you the stat that told the story, our most impressive, our most disappointing. So let's start with Sunday Night Football. Let's start with a game that was an overtime thriller. I don't know if did it technically go after midnight? I was up for it, and I know we
think so. I wasn't keeping track.
It was right up to where midnight was. If not, it was a couple minutes before, but took us in the wee hours of the night here for Sunday Night Football for the Commanders to come up 1 play and 1 point short in overtime. The Broncos get the win on the road, 27-26. The top 5 graded players that we have for the Denver Broncos in this one: guard Quinn Miners at the top of their list with a 92.3. Linebacker Dre Greenlaw right behind him with an 89.9. Offensive tackle Garrett Bowles with an 89.0. Edge rusher Dondre Tillman with a 85.7, and then offensive tackle Mike McGlinchey with a 79.4. Bo Nix in this game a 61.8. We'll talk a little bit more about Bo Nix in a second. On Washington side of things, their offensive lineman Sam Cosmi was their highest graded player with a 91.4. Linebacker Jordan McGee with a 79.7. Wide receiver Terry McLaurin back and healthy in this game, a 78.5. Offensive tackle Josh Connerly, a 76.9, and then offensive tackle Laramie Tunsil on the other side with a 75.4. Marcus Mariota in this game, a 62.7. Stat that told the story, Dalton. What do we got?
I think, obviously, this game was just fantastic from start to finish, right? The back-and-forth nature of it and coming down to the very last play. And there's so many things at times for the Denver Broncos this year that have felt like they're unstable, right? Bo Nix and all the close games they play in, and things can kind of be streaky for them, especially on offense. But the one bit of stability they have, and I think the one reason that they felt good about winning this game, even as it went to overtime, this is one of the best offensive lines in the NFL, and they just continue to get the job done. How about a 91.6 PFF PFF grade as a group in this game. That's the 4th highest by any offensive line in any game this season. The pass protection was outstanding. They were only charged with 8 pressures up front in this game. All hurries. Nix, I believe, was only sacked 1 time, and that was for holding the ball too long. A 92.2 run blocking grade. I know they didn't have a ton of rushing yards, but it really wasn't on the offensive line for that. And even then, they were able to punch in the winning touchdown for R.J. Harvey in overtime there. So I just think when you look at this offensive line and the stability it allows, the stability allows Sean Payton in the play calling as well, knowing that Bo Nix is going to be protected. And he had a 78.7 passing grade in a clean pocket, knowing that even though they've been struggling to rack up yards on the ground all night, when they need it the most down at the 5-yard line, they can still hand the ball off, get behind Garrett Bowles, get behind the rest of this offensive line, and punch it in for the winning score. This is what makes the Broncos offense the most dangerous to me, because you just don't have a whole lot of answers for a really, really good front 5. And the Commanders tried their best. There was times where they made plays and they got stops when they needed and they stayed in the game. But at the end of the day, I think this offensive line controls the pace of the offensive side of the ball for the Broncos.
Yeah, the Broncos are still on paper one of the best teams in the NFL. I think when you look at their offensive line, that's really where it starts. If Nix was going to play well, obviously, I think that you felt good about a lot of other pieces on this team. Some other wide receivers have stepped up for them. Evan Ingram was big in this game. R.J. Harvey, not a big night from him. I believe he only had 35 rushing yards in this game. But like you said, when they needed it the most, they were able to lean on him, and he was able to get in the end zone. The defense sort of speaks for itself, how they are absolute closers, and were once again in overtime on that 2-point conversion attempt with Nick Bonito getting the PBU there. So I think that the Broncos they're really strong. They're 10-2. I know that's sort of an understatement with how well they are playing and how they're right there for the number 1 seed in the AFC. When you look at Bo Nix in this game, 29 for 45, 321 passing yards, had 1 touchdown and 1 interception. When you look at some more like PFF statistics, he had 2 turnover-worthy plays, 1 big-time throw. So that's why his passing grade is a little bit lower with just a 60.3. But my stat that told the story here was Bo Nix on that final drive. 4 for 4, 71 yards. And now a big chunk of it was the Evan Ingram yards after the catch. And so obviously those are easy yards for him because he's not doing anything to pick it up. He's just giving it to Evan Ingram in a way where he can get a lot of yards after catch. But it was more of Nix and the offense in that final drive in overtime where, the Commanders elect to kick the ball, which was interesting. Chris, the boss man, said this on the broadcast. He's like, man, I would have been tempted to take the football there, because even though you're not the team answering, and there's some advantage to being able to answer because you know what you have to do after that. Do I have to kick a field goal? Do I have to score a touchdown? So you've got a good feeling of what you have to do. So I understand why you kick it, but the Broncos defense had been on the field for a while, and that game got tied up at the very end. You could send that defense right back out there again. That defense would have been tired. It would have been gassed, and who knows whether or not that would have ultimately been a better decision. But when the Broncos offense did get out there, they were ready. It just felt like completion, long yards after the catch, getting towards the goal line, punching it in. Like, it was methodical. Sean Payton was ready for that drive in overtime, and so was Bo Nix and the rest of the offense. So that, to me, was just the true stat that told the story when we had a back-and-forth game the whole time. Them being able to set the tone there right outside of overtime when they hadn't been on the field for a while obviously was what made the biggest difference for them being 1-point victors in this game.
Absolutely. I mean, and you look at 8 of their 10 wins have been by 1 score. They're just used to these situations at this point. How many times have we seen, even in the 2 games they lost to the Colts and the Chargers, very, very close games, right? But this game, the Kansas City game with the big throw at the end and then the field goal to win it, beating the Raiders 10-7. It's ugly, but you just keep moving on to the next play. I think that's the idea, is that Sean Payton, knowing that this team, they got to the playoffs last season. They know they're trying to take the next step. They've won close games all year. I think they just have this mentality now of just keep playing. And again, that stability they have in the trenches on both sides of the ball, I really should say. Their offensive line was elite in this game, but the biggest play of the game at the end made by Nick Bonito, batting the pass down from Mariota that looked like it would have scored had he gotten it over him, right? I think you just have that level of stability in the heart and soul of this team, the offensive and defensive lines, and then Sean Payton with all of his experience just guiding his team through all of these close wins.
I know that he didn't complete that last pass, but my most impressive in this game is Marcus Mariota and how he's been able to honestly just step in for Jaden Daniels over the last couple of seasons. It's sort of been an encapsulation of him being able to step up in those big moments. There were times when, getting right down to that fourth quarter, I believe it was that final drive when they had a massive 3rd and long situation, and you go, all right, what are you going to do here, right? I mean, this game is basically over. And Mariota kept his composure. He completed the pass. They were able to then convert on 4th down. They end up getting the end zone. They tie the game. And it's just, well, they kicked the field goal and they tied the game there. And then even leading them down the field, scoring that touchdown, having a chance to win it at home in overtime. I mean, I just thought he did an excellent job. 28 for 50 overall in this game, 294 passing yards. Also had 55 rushing yards, which was the most on his team, which, I think that is an issue with the Commanders. Like, they need more rushing output from their running backs in this game. I know that who Marcus Mariota is and who Jaden Daniels is, like, the rushing ability from the quarterback position is always going to be an important part of their offense. But we have talked about, and we talked about this a lot last year as well, when this team was really rolling, running the football was a big part of their identity. Everybody loved to talk about Jaden Daniels and some of the big passes that he was able to complete, but they were able to stay really balanced last year, and when they ran the football, you felt very good about that offense. And I just feel as though the explosiveness and the rushing output and the efficiency has not quite been there this year. It obviously wasn't a major reason why they weren't competing in this game, because they were right there to the very end, but that just goes into how Marcus Mariota was able to supplement, in my opinion, a little bit of lack of explosiveness from the run game, get involved in the run game himself, and then what he did with his arm during the final couple of drives of the regulation and then into overtime, I just thought was really impressive from him.
For sure, and you can feel the difference in their offense, too. It's something I feel like they've been missing for most of the year, with Terry McLaurin, the big vertical threat out there as well, just opening things up for everybody else, and McLaurin himself had a really good game. But I just think this Commanders offense, obviously, it hasn't been all together, all in one piece, basically at all this season, and having McLaurin out there is a big difference. And honestly, as far as the game goes, it's just a game where, look, two teams went out there and played really hard for more than the full 60 minutes, about 68 minutes, and one team just made one more play than the other. It really was an awesome game we saw last night.
Most impressive, most disappointing?
I'll stay on that offensive line with Garrett Bowles. Look, the Broncos dropped back 48 times to pass, and Garrett Bowles only allowed one hurry on the night, 89.5 pass blocking grade, also an 84.5 run blocking grade with 5 positively graded run blocks. I know the rushing output doesn't look like much for the Broncos side, but their offensive line was opening holes all night, and I just think the backs really didn't take advantage of what they were given, getting yards after contact or anything like that. But Garrett Bowles was outstanding. Quinn Miners as well up front. That whole unit was, but I thought Bowles really stood out in that kind of two-dimensional way as a pass blocker and a run blocker.
My most disappointing in this game was Bobby Wagner, and Wagner's not terrible. He's still a strong presence in run defense. He is still generally where he needs to be. I think that even when he's dropping in coverage, like, you feel good about his positioning, exactly where he is. The problem is, and this got exposed specifically in that overtime period with that long catch to Evan Ingram, he just doesn't have the twitch anymore at his age. The straight line speed, okay, like he could probably get to the sideline and, pursue ball carries to the sideline and try to cut off angles with outside zone or outside toss plays or things like that. Like he can run in a straight line. But when you put him in conflict with a wide receiver or specifically a tight end like Evan Ingram, who has the ability to run sort of this pivot route or whip route the way that we saw last night in overtime, and that wasn't the only time they ran that route. I specifically went back and I saw a play earlier in the game where they actually ran that exact same route against him, just to the opposite side of the field, and it was the same exact result. They cooked him, and it's just a situation where Wagner just doesn't have that agility anymore. He just does not have that lateral quickness. And that's going to be something that a lot of teams are going to be able to point to and say, we can exploit this. And the Broncos were able to do that a couple of times last night. And so for a guy who has had an unbelievable career, he's been one of the best linebackers over the last 2 decades with how he has played, Father Time has just caught up to him in that regard, and unfortunately we saw it in overtime for them.
Yeah, and he's still got the 7th best run defense grade among qualified linebackers in the NFL, but only a 51.3 coverage grade for the season. And if you're going to have a player like that, then you need your other linebackers, say, right, as I've talked before about Dre Greenlaw kind of being that complement on this, really on the, right on the other side here with Denver, of being that guy who can cover at that linebacker position. The problem is Frankie Louvu's not great in coverage either. He's only got a 50 coverage grade himself. So it is something, I think, going into next year that Dan Quinn is going to have to think about, finding somebody who can cover at that first level, at that linebacker spot, whether it's someone who's just a really good athlete who can rotate in, or maybe finding a new starter and really turning over a new leaf with this linebacking core.
All right, let's get right to it. I see the Panthers fans in the chat early on in this one. Let's get right to what was the most shocking game of the entire week, no question about it. The Carolina Panthers defending home turf in Charlotte and getting the best win in the NFL maybe so far with how the Rams are playing. I think that every single person that you could have asked last week before this week started would have told you, yeah, the Rams are the best team in football. How they are playing, how dominant they have been. And the Panthers take them down. 31-28 as was the final score in this one. The top 5 graded players that we had for the Carolina Panthers is the winners in this game. Wide receiver Jalen Coker at the top of the list with an 86.5. Halfback Chuba Hubbard with an 82.2. All sorts of action in the game plan as a runner and a receiver. Cornerback Mike Jackson with a 75.0. Center Austin Corbett with a 73.1. And then offensive tackle Taylor Moton with a 71.9. Bryce Young in this game, and we'll talk plenty about Bryce Young, an 83.3. On the Rams side of things, running back Blake Corum was at the top of their list with a 91.4. Defensive tackle Braden Fisk, an 85.0. Edge rusher Byron Young with an 84.5. Offensive tackle Warren McClendon Jr. an 84.0. And then wide receiver Devontae Adams an 83.2. Matthew Stafford in this game a 54.2. And I mentioned how, if you asked people heading into the week who their number one team in the NFL was, it was the Los Angeles Rams. Well, we even had that on this show here. And Dalton, I want to go back to your preview of this game to see what you had to say, and then we'll talk about what actually ended up happening here if we have that clip from the preview show from last week. I just think that they're going to control the game because it goes too easily into what they like to do.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't like calling out blowouts generally, either here or on the college show, because I'm always trying to find ways that both teams can win, but I'm having a hard time finding a way the Panthers can win this game, even at home. I mean, their last home game against the Saints, it didn't look great either. I look at this game, I have it 35-10 Rams. I think this could be a runaway.
All right, I did you dirty there. I also said that this game was going to be a blowout for the Los Angeles Rams.
It's the exact reason I try not to call out blowouts. I get away with it sometimes on the college show because it can be a wider. This is one, and I can't imagine many people outside of Carolina had them winning this game, but they are also right now maybe the hardest team in football to figure out, and it's for this very reason, because you just have no idea week to week what they're going to look like.
So how did it happen? You said in the clip, and again, I was right there with you. I also thought this was going to be a blowout from the Los Angeles Rams. I think a lot of people did, to your point. How did this happen? You said, I can't see a way that the Panthers win this game. Well, they did. So what was the way? What ended up happening?
The first lesson here is that they made all of the biggest plays and all of the biggest moments. That starts with the turnover margin. You win. I don't care who you're playing in the NFL. If you win the turnover margin 3-0, you can win that football game. Derek Brown tips a pass as the Rams are driving into the Panthers' red zone, and it's intercepted, right? Mike Jackson with the pick six. That really felt like a big moment of, okay, the Panthers are really in this game. And then you get the Derek Brown strip sack that's recovered by DJ Wanham as the Rams are trying to either tie or go ahead again late in the fourth quarter. Those plays, and then you look at, just individually, Bryce Young, there's a big conversation to be had about him, but the 4th and 2, the game-winning touchdown to Tedero McMillan, I don't think I've seen many better throws this season than that individual throw. And do you remember when they played the Falcons, and he had the big game against the Falcons, when we talked about those 2 consecutive big-time throws early in the third quarter, and there was the first one on that same exact concept. You had the 2 deep crossers. He looks off the free safety. He makes the big throw into man-to-man coverage. Canales went to the same exact concept. That was the throw that opened up the second half of that Falcons game, and Bryce got raging hot from there. That was the same exact concept from a different formation that the Panthers used for this game-winning touchdown. And when you look at when Bryce released that ball, McMillan was not open.
No, he was not.
And if he leads him directly east and west towards the sideline, that's probably not complete. The fact that he had the idea to lead him over the top and lead McMillan over the top like that, probably one of the 5 best throws I've seen all season. But that just speaks to me that, in the second half especially, they made the biggest plays in the biggest moments of this game. Because the Rams, for 95% of it, they still played really well. You look on both sides, they were the higher graded team on both sides of the ball. It's just the 3 turnovers, and then the Panthers did a really nice job. I thought Canales and Young are kind of combined as my most impressive guys, because Dave Canales, when you're playing, again, a front 7, a defensive line like this, you have to find ways around it, and you have to be really physical up front. Now, we mentioned in the preview that if there was one ray of hope here, it's that the Panthers' offensive line at least stands a chance. This is a top 10 offensive line in the league, and they were physical, especially in the second half of this game, controlling the clock and limiting the Rams' possessions. But also, I think about a play like the swing screen to Chuba Hubbard for the touchdown, right? Just get the ball out to the perimeter. Don't let this defensive line beat you. Don't make Bryce Young stand back in the pocket for 3.5 seconds, because you're not going to have that much time. I think Canales did a great job of coaching this team and having a game plan for this exact defense. And just keeping this team steady through, I don't know if I've ever seen a team oscillate up and down the way that this Panther team does. Any given week, they can look like the worst team in football, and yet they're one of just two teams along with the Eagles that's beaten both the Rams and the Packers.
Right.
I'm so glad they're on a bye week this coming week, so I don't have to pick another Panther game. Because look, I don't get stressed out much. I've seen a lot of weird shit in 31 years here. I'm so glad. The Panthers stress me out. I'm so glad you guys are on a bye week this week. Great win. I'm glad I get a week off from picking their games because I have no idea what's coming next.
It's funny that you mentioned that. A good friend of the show, Benjamin Solak, had a tweet after the game in which he actually showed on paper what the Carolina Panthers have been doing over the last couple of weeks this season. And he says, explain the Panthers' last 7 games to me like I'm 5.
What are we supposed to do with this
You have the win over the Jets. You have a blowout loss against the Buffalo Bills, 40-9. You then go into Green Bay and you beat the Packers. You then lose to the Saints at home when you were at home. You destroy the Falcons earlier in the season, and then you beat them again in Atlanta this time. We mentioned how well Bryce Young played in that game. You looked completely incompetent across the country against the San Francisco 49ers. 20-9 is the final score there. And then you beat the Los Angeles Rams 31-28. To be honest, though, it's funny to look at. And it's sort of funny it's hard to figure out. But in reality, it's not hard to figure out. If Bryce Young is playing confidently, this team wins football games. And it's the games that he's not that they look totally lost. It is such a cliche and is such the obvious thing to say. But no team in the NFL goes more as their quarterback goes than Carolina. Because when you look at Carolina, independent of Bryce Young, you mentioned they have a top 10 offensive line in the NFL. I would agree with you. With Rico Dowdle and with Chuba Hubbard, especially the way that they got Chuba Hubbard involved in the offense this week, those guys were very complimentary of who they were as a 1-2 rushing duo. Really like that group. The receivers, when you're throwing to Tetairoa McMillan, you feel pretty good about it. Jalen Coker coming back from injury, now you feel pretty confidently with him. You obviously have multiple tight ends that they've gotten involved at different points of the year. You feel okay about the pass catches you're throwing to. You really do. On the defensive side of the football, you got young guys who are still progressing. Derek Brown's having an all-pro, Pro Bowl type of a season. The linebacker level is a bit of an issue for them, but you look at the last couple of weeks, how well J.C. Horn and Mike Jackson have played for them. The secondary, a little bit up and down, but they have the ability to play pretty well. This is a good football team. Like, Carolina has the ability to be a good football team. And when you throw a confident Bryce Young into that mix of those names I just mentioned, he beats pretty good NFL teams, and they've proven that. But when Bryce is hesitant, that's when you have the issues. I remember watching the Niners game on Monday Night Football last week, and Bryce just looked tense. He looked like he felt like he had too much on his shoulders in that game. I even remember watching that game, and even some of the plays where he ended up becoming a runner and scrambling and picking up some yards, like, he wasn't confident in it. He wasn't confident to immediately become a runner, to take the yards that was right in front of him. He kept trying to keep his eyes downfield. No. I've been told that I have to pass. Like, I have to. People have told me, and I've listened to this, they're like, okay, we've got to get Bryce more involved when it comes to the intermediate and deep passing. I've got to keep my eyes downfield. I can't take off. I watched it in this game. I think it was the first quarter in this game. He has a spot where all of his receivers are to his right, and they're running sort of like this crossfield concepts, but he immediately recognizes, okay, I'm in a rollout situation. I have 10 yards that I could pick up right here. He tucks the ball immediately the way that you would want him to. He was, and it's funny, Dalton, because in this game, it was cold, it was rainy, it was windy. I mean, the conditions weren't what you wanted them to be, and he just looked as confident as possible.
And you're playing the darn Rams.
And the confidence that he played with in this game, this is what's going to always make Carolina so tough to quit. Now, is this a team that you could feel good about every single week? Obviously, right now, the answer is no, because we just saw on the screen how flip-floppy they've been the entire season, and their win-loss record obviously speaks to that as well. But you can't count this team out. You mentioned that you're so glad that they're on a bye week and we don't have to talk about them for another 2 weeks. Imagine the fine folks in Las Vegas, Nevada, trying to set a line for a Carolina Panthers game throughout the rest of the season.
Imagine the fine folks in Tampa with this team half game behind them. like yourself trying to figure out what in the world they're dealing with, and they still got to play them twice.
So, yeah, hats off to what Carolina is doing. Bryce, it's so much fun to watch him play as confidently as he did against the Rams. 83.5 passing grade in this one, 15 for 20, just over 200 passing yards and 3 touchdowns, but 2 big-time throws, no turnover-worthy plays in this game. He was awesome. Another most impressive I had was, I mentioned Chuba Hubbard, 80.0 rushing grade, 60 yards after contact in this game. He had 2 catches for 41 yards and a receiving touchdown as well. Really encouraged by how he got into the mix and how I think that there is that really good blend of him and Rico Dowdle in the same backfield, splitting those carries. And when I say split, I mean, finding whatever the good balance is for that week. But I think Carolina's got a ton of potential, and they obviously showed it this week, beating a really, really good Rams team. And when this team plays confidently, they can clearly beat anybody.
I think the other big development here, because, one thing with Tedero McMillan is that game-winning touchdown was the only ball that he caught. This is big, I think, for the game that Jalen Coker had. This was really the first game since he's been healthy that he had a big impact, right? He was their highest-graded player in this game, 84.9 receiving grade, and it feels like all year, yes, McMillan's been great all year. He might win Offensive Rookie of the Year, and it would be well-deserved, but they need one more guy to step up on a consistent basis. Is it going to be Xavier Legette, who had a big touchdown against Atlanta? Is it going to be Jalen Coker, who had the big game here against the Rams? If they can get just that whole combination of guys going instead of being so reliant on the run game and then on McMillan. And trust me, McMillan has been great. He should lead the team in targets just about every week, but you need other guys to step up as well. Coker doing that in this game made a huge difference also.
Most disappointing. I mean, mine was Matthew Stafford, just because, you have the turnovers in this game. And, it's funny, when we talked about the Rams last week, just our appreciation for them, I mentioned that I don't know if there's a game where I felt like they were outplayed yet this year. The Carolina one, I think, is the closest one, because you want to give Carolina a ton of credit and kudos for how well they played. But once again, Carolina was clean on the turnover sheet. The Rams were not. The only games that the Rams have lost this year, they have had brutal turnover. So it really is something where if the Rams have a game where they have 0 or 1 turnover, it's really, really hard to beat this team. But they had 3 turnovers in this game. Matthew Stafford was not as sharp as he usually is, below a 60.0 passing grade in this one. And I think that's why this was a disappointing outing for them and why they ended up losing this game.
Yeah, mine is a guy who we were heaping so much praise on last week for the great game he played against Tampa, but Emmanuel Forbes with his toughest game of the year, a 28 coverage grade, 5 catches and 110 yards allowed. It just felt like for the Panthers on both sides, just the perfect confluence of events. Guys who were playing great football all of a sudden didn't have their best day in this game, and the Panthers, I think offensively, they played, to me, considering the opponent, their best offensive game of the year, even more so than the Atlanta game. This just was, I almost want to say it was the first time that we really saw this team be this two-dimensional. Maybe go back to the Dallas game too. That was another one, but consider what Dallas was on defense. When you talk about this team, I think overall it was the best offensive game that they've played, and look, some guys on the Rams defense didn't have their best day in this one.
Yeah, they were fearless to go after Emmanuel Forbes, which is interesting given how well he has played so far this year, and they said, nope, don't care. We're going to run the offense the way that we want to. Tet's going to be on Emmanuel a lot, and we feel good about it. So shout out to Carolina. Hell of a win for them. Cardinals at the Bucs. The Bucs were able to still stay, what are they, half game above the Panthers. Yeah, because they got the bye week coming up. With a 20-17 win over the Arizona Cardinals. Top 5 players that we had for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Offensive tackle Tristan Wirfs is at the top of the list with a 90.2 thanks to a receiving touchdown in this game. Edge rusher Logan Hall with an 89.9. Defensive tackle Vita Vea and a 79.6. Linebacker Yaya Diaby with a 77.7. And then offensive guard Ben Bredesen with a 75.2. Baker Mayfield in this game playing hurt with that shoulder. 64.3 overall grade. On the Arizona side of things, edge rusher Josh Sweat with a 79.2. Wide receiver Marvin Harrison Jr. back in the lineup, finished with a 75.3. Cornerback Denzel Burke a 75.0. Safety Jalen Thompson a 72.3. And then offensive guard Isaiah Adams with a 72.1. Quarterback Jacoby Brissett, 73.7 overall grade in this one. Dalton?
This game was kind of ugly, Trevor.
This was not a good game.
Weird,
not
ugly,
not a lot of good football in this game.
Weird, ugly, mistake-filled game. I think, especially for the Bucs in the first half. Didn't it feel like every time they did something right, oh, there's a holding penalty. Oh, there's a offensive pass interference. Oh, so Chris Godwin drops a touchdown in the end zone, right? And then for the Cardinals, it's kind of been the microcosm of their whole season, right? Where to me, the big thing in this game, the reason the Cardinals just barely didn't win this game was they don't finish drives. And there's been a lot of times this year where they haven't finished drives with touchdowns, right? You look at an interception inside the Buccaneers' 20-yard line. You look at the Bam Knight fumble in Bucs territory. Missed a 43-yard field goal. 3 for 10 on 3rd and 4th down. I just think this kind of felt to me like an ugly game both ways. But the Cardinals lost this one again the same way they've been losing every single week. Is that they just don't finish drives. They just don't finish games. And then at the end, the final drive was just way too conservative, not taking shots downfield. The only other thing I'll say is Todd Bowles, when he did ramp up the pressure on Jacoby Brissett looked a bit uncomfortable, I thought. When he sent 4, I thought Brissett looked comfortable, but that's been a theme for the Bucs all year too, is that they don't really get a whole lot of pressure without blitzing, so Bowles has to figure out the optimal times to blitz the opposing quarterback. But I think at the end of the day here, this is just about the Arizona Cardinals once again. For me, despite the Bucs playing nowhere near their best game, they played a C football game in this one. I mean, there was a lot of
on
mistakes.
Offense, for sure. Defensive line actually played pretty well altogether. Like Logan Hall actually had a really good game. Yaya Diaby played well. You see Vita on that top 5 list. Like I thought the defensive line played well in this game, but for the most part, you're right. It was a subpar showing from Tampa, which is why honestly the stat that told the story for me is very simple. Field position. Tampa had one drive start at the 50-yard line for them, which I believe they got points off of. And then they had one drive start at Arizona's 39-yard line when they went for it on 4th down and they stopped them, which they also got points off of that one. So in a game that was a 3-point game in the end, it was those 2 drives that started in neutral or plus position for them that they were able to gain points. I know at least one of them was a field goal that they had. The other one might have been a missed field goal. I can't remember off the top of my head. But them getting plus field position, I think, was truly what made all the difference in the world here in this game. It's been disappointing for the Buccaneers, but they are getting healthier. And I see a lot of Bucs fans talk about this on Twitter, and this is true. You don't love using injuries as an excuse. Like, it's no fun, right? I mean, like, when the team doesn't play well, it's hard to just go like, yeah, well, they're hurt. Even if it's the truth. Even if it's the complete truth in the matter. But there is a reality where this Bucs team is as healthy as they will have been all season with 3 weeks to go in the regular season. Mike Evans coming back. Bucky Irvin getting back in the mix. Hopefully Baker Mayfield is a little bit more healthy. Chris Godwin actually looked the closest to the real Chris Godwin in this game. I know he had some uncharacteristic drops, but he looked, at least movement-wise, as close to he normally looks for the Buccaneers in this game. So you're encouraged by that. Jalen McMillan's coming back. Jamel Dean, obviously Hassan Reddick getting back in the mix for them as well. Like, they are getting healthier, and so you hope that the last handful of games they're going to be as healthy as they've ever been, and it'll be interesting because they play Carolina in 3 out of the last 2 weeks of the season. But it's disappointing right now for them, but there is reason to believe that it's going to get better for this team.
It's got that feel, possibly, of what we saw 2 years ago in Baker Mayfield's first season. That year, they won 3 out of 4. Then they lost 6 out of 7.
Right.
Then they surged into the playoffs and beat Philadelphia in the playoffs. It has that feel, whereas last year it felt like they were more consistent. Mm-hmm. This year, look, injuries and playing a lot of good teams all in a row, losing 4 out of 5 here recently before this game. Now you get into a softer part of your schedule, even though 4 of your last 5 games are in the division. But you mentioned it. Get healthy, and I think in this game, at least if they're healthier, now they just got to come off this game and look at the tape and go, you know what, we just got to execute a little bit better, because I saw between just mistakes that were wiping points off the board, or you kind of had that thing where it was like 10 guys would do their job and then one guy would screw it up, because offensively that's how it works. If 1 out of the 11 guys screws it up, then something goes wrong. That's what it felt like in this game, but they grinded through it. They got a win against a feistier than their record Cardinals team, and they should be given credit for that. Now they set themselves up, obviously, with the Panthers getting this win, too, against the Rams for a couple of huge matchups later in the season.
Yeah, my one takeaway for the Cardinals is actually something that you guys can see over at Premium Stats if you have a PFF Plus subscription. I wanted to take a look at Isaiah Adams, who was in the top 5 for their graded players on this one, which you guys can see right there. This is the Premium Stats page. You go to the Bucs and Cardinals game. You go straight to offense, and then you can see all the grades that they have for those players right there. You see Isaiah Adams, one of the top graded players. And he has 72.1 overall PFF grade. And then he had that 73.7 specifically run blocking grade. I thought that he was pretty good in this game when it came to getting out of his stance, getting on the move, those reach blocks, those mid and outside zone blocks. I thought he did a really good job in that. And so, to me, the question with the Cardinals right now is they're obviously not making the playoffs. Like, this year is what it is. You're just trying to get to next offseason. I think you're really evaluating this roster to see who do you want in the starting lineup on the current team next year. And I think this is an important game for Adams because he's always been a fringe player for me. Paris Johnson Jr. entrenched as their left tackle. But then it's like, okay, do you want to bring any of the interior offensive linemen back? I think Evan Brown's really struggled as one of the offensive guards. I don't think he's going to be a starter for them next year. Yalda Froldholt has been fine, and so if you want to bring him back at center, I don't have a problem with that, but if you can upgrade, you'll probably look to do that. Isaiah Adams is the one where I go, all right, you're on a rookie contract, you're doing some things well, and if you click on his player profile, if you guys wanted to go like even deeper into that, you can see like the last 5 or 6 games, like he has graded decently well. He's stringing along some pretty good games here. And so maybe he is a player who you feel good about bringing back, and maybe there's, 2 out of 3 players. Oh, yeah, you can see it right there. Like since week 5 was that last game that he played really well. He missed a little bit of time due to injury, but since he's come back, you see those run blocking scores are pretty good for him. So I think he's putting together some good tape here down the stretch. If he continues to do this, he's probably one of those players that I'd end up bringing back in an offensive line that I think is paramount for them to fix and optimize going into that 2027 season.
It's the idea.
2026 season.
It's the idea for all of the teams that are out of the playoff race already. You use these last 5-6 games to figure out who the keepers are, right? We see that with several teams with losing records, and the Cardinals need to do that. You mentioned, especially on this offensive line, having to figure out how many resources they need to use on this offensive line, because we already might have a quarterback question, right? But I would argue the second most important position unit is that O-line, and you've mentioned it before. Paris Johnson looks like the only surefire keeper right now. He's obviously really good at left tackle, but they got to figure out the rest of that unit no matter who their quarterback is going to be. If Adams can continue to play like he's played the last few weeks, maybe that's an option for him going into next year.
The Texans and the Colts. Houston gets a big win over Indianapolis in Indy, 20-16 the final score here. And we got to have a talk about the Indianapolis Colts and what they currently are and what they're going to be moving forward. But before we do that, got to give respect to the Texans and their top 5 graded players in this game. Edge rusher Will Anderson. What a crazy year, man. I feel like we talk about this every single week. But if it weren't for Myles Garrett, I think the 2 players that you and I suggested as Defensive Player of the Year candidates, I said Will Anderson, you said Derek Stingley Jr. Like, I think both of those guys would absolutely be up there for the award. And Anderson at the top of this list for the Texans, 91.6 overall grade. Safety Jalen Petrie behind him with an 83.2. Then it's wide receiver Nico Collins with an 82.6. Offensive guard Ed Ingram with an 80.3. Offensive guard Titus Howard rounding things out at number 5 with a 75.1. And then C.J. Stroud in his return to action from his concussion. Great to see him back on the field, a 66.5 overall grade. On Indy side of things, wide receiver Alec Pierce, pending free agent this upcoming free agency period, 83.7. Young man's about to get paid. Offensive guard Quentin Nelson behind him with a 78.0. Wide receiver Josh Downs with a 72.2. Edge rusher Kwity Paye with a 72.0. And then at number 5, offensive guard Matt Goncalves with a 71.2. Daniel Jones in this one, an 84.2. Good grade, but not enough to get it done on the scoreboard. Seth told the story, Dalton.
So I'm starting to look at this team offensively the same way I have talked about the Detroit Lions. And you're seeing now that there have been 5 games where the Colts are under 100 rushing yards, including this one. They only had 86 rushing yards in this game. They have lost 4 of those 5 games, and the only win came against the Las Vegas Raiders. So this is a real problem. And Daniel Jones, I believe that's his highest graded game of the season, and he made some terrific throws in this game, but I think the Texans did a good job of just coming into this game and going, nah, you're going to beat us left-handed. And if Daniel Jones comes out here and beats us and puts up, that sort of grade, and he's the best player on the field, and he makes all these throws that win him a ball game in a drop-back situation against our defense, then so be it. Because Josh Allen couldn't do it last week. And there's a lot of guys right now who would not be able to do it against this Houston Texans defense. And look, Jones played really well, all things considered. But to me, you take that chance. Because you look at Jonathan Taylor, 21 carries, 85 yards, 4 explosive runs out of those 21 accounted for 46 of the 85 yards. Only 2 missed tackles forced, Only 6 runs for the Colts that bounced off tackle. The Texans did a really good job, especially on the defensive line. Staying wide, make sure we can funnel things inside so he can't break out and get into our secondary, and not a single run on the day longer than 12 yards for the Colts. You're just not seeing the explosiveness against these teams with better front sevens, better defensive lines. And It's not, it's not anything against the Colts offensive line, but sometimes the battle, you get evenly matched. Think about Pittsburgh. Think about the Rams. Think about the Texans, and these are some of the best defensive lines in football. And when the Colts don't have the run game dominating to the tune of 150-plus yards, they're asking Daniel Jones to do everything. He's not capable of doing that, right? He's played his best football this year as a complementary piece to a balanced offense and an offense where the running game was dominating first and foremost.
Yeah.
There has to be a serious question asked about the Colts and their ability for Dan. Look, it doesn't get any easier. At Jacksonville, at Seattle, San Fran, Jacksonville again, at Houston to finish the season. They got to find a way to get the balance back in this offense, because this is really the limitation now. And listen, I was the biggest Daniel Jones optimist there was. He could come into this offense and play functional football. But beyond that, you're not going to get it. And they're going to have to find at least 2 more wins out of these last 5 games if they want to make the playoffs.
Yeah.
They're not even, through tiebreakers, they're not even in first place anymore.
Yeah.
And this Houston team is 1 game behind them.
Right.
So they, and this is the hard part about this game, is Daniel Jones actually played really well. But because they didn't have the balance, they're not the same offense. And that's why they only scored 16 points and got dragged into the Texans style of game. The Texans did a great job with the game plan. They dominated up front again. Will Anderson, once again, best player on the field. The linebackers, Azeez Al-Shire and those guys, were really good. I think E.J. Speed has really brought a different element to their linebacking core. They get into base defense and stop a team like this with a base defense if they want to. But the Colts really need to figure this out offensively right now, how to get the balance back in this offense, because 3 of the last 4 games, and they've lost those 3 games, they have not been able to run the football at the elite clip they were earlier in the season.
Yeah, and I think that running on early downs is really what I would focus on, because when you specifically look at how they have been on third downs as of late, it's not good. They were 3 for 10 on third down in this game, 30% obviously, 28.57% on third down in their last 3 games. That's 30th in the NFL. 3 of their 10 third down attempts in this game came with less than 7 yards to go. So that means that 7 out of their 10 third down attempts, you're looking at 3rd and 7 plus. That's 3rd and long. You're not setting yourself up. We had this conversation early in the season, like 4 or 5 weeks into the year, where we went, things are pretty easy for Daniel Jones right now, because they're running the ball really well on 1st and 2nd down, and when they have 3rd downs, it's 3rd and short. You have the whole playbook open to you. And we talked about this, and I don't remember what it was, week 4, week 5. What are the Colts and what is Daniel Jones going to be when you're in a lot more 3rd and long situations? Are you that guy to pick up 3rd downs with your arms? And I think that he can occasionally, but I don't think that it's something that you can lean on too often. When you look at weeks 1 through 8, they had an almost 0.200 EPA per play on those early downs on 1st and 2nd down. That would, I don't know off the top of my head what it was, but I'm sure that was top 10, if not top 5 in the NFL for an EPA per play number when it comes to how you were performing on 1st and 2nd down. That was weeks 1 through 8. Weeks 9 through 13, now for the Colts, they have a negative EPA per play on early downs. Much different story. You're putting yourself way behind the sticks when it comes to getting first downs and the odds of picking them up, and really just how much of your playbook you have open to you, because you're basically putting Daniel Jones in situations where he not only has to throw the ball, he probably has to throw the ball past the sticks. There's probably not a lot you can do on 3rd and 7 and 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9, whatever it is, because the defense is just going to play sticks coverage on you. They're just going to play their coverage players right around where that first down mark is, and if you throw any sort of underneath route, they're going to rally around it. So you're now demanding Daniel Jones to go get these first downs with his arm, and he's not really been that quarterback to consistently do that. So they have an early down problem. It's running the ball as well. I think that you were correct in saying that, but it's just an early down problem for this team. I'm going to go to most impressive, though, for the Houston Texans offensive line. This unit stunk at the beginning of the year. We were worried that this was going to be the kryptonite, the Achilles heel of this really talented Houston Texans team. And 5-6-ish weeks into the season, they were a big reason why this team was struggling, and they weren't able to move the ball, and they weren't able to have consistent offense. Houston's offensive line in this game 77.1 overall blocking grade, and a 78.8 pass blocking grade. The Houston Texans? 78.8 pass blocking grade? You better watch out. This defense playing the way that they are right now, you combine that with C.J. Stroud getting back, hopefully nothing close to any more concussions for the rest of this season, and the rest of his career, obviously, but now he's got this offensive line. Sure, they don't have as dynamic of a run game as they would like, but Woody Marks is giving you splash plays here and there. Houston's peaking at the right time. They're a team that you should absolutely be afraid of, and at one point it felt like there was no chance this team was going to make the playoffs, let alone contend for the division. And now, like you mentioned, they are right there on the heels of the Indianapolis Colts for taking that top spot.
Oh, and they could not be playing a bigger game this coming week at Kansas City. I mean, for both of those teams, and you think about that game, as hot as the Texans are, and have arguably the best defense in football, and then you look at the Chiefs. If the Chiefs lose that game, and then they lose just every tiebreaker with everybody in front of them except the Colts, their season at that point might be over. There's some really high stakes games coming this week, but this game for both of these teams, and with Houston chasing both Jacksonville and Indianapolis, and already have a win over Indianapolis now, they have everything in front of them. And to your point about their offensive line, I was looking at this, okay? Remember, we always talk about creep back to average up front, right? Since week 5, Texans are 18th in pass blocking grade. I'll take it. That's good enough considering we were darn near predicting them to be dead last, right? If they're 18th in pass blocking grade the rest of the way in these big games, they're going to be fine.
Yep.
C.J. Stroud getting healthy. Nico Collins is the man. Jaden Higgins and those guys and the other receivers coming along as well. All the Iowa State guys they have. The run game has been good enough. But I think that's the lesson, too, for this offense is there's certain parts of it you just need to be good enough. If this team any given week puts up 24 points, they're going to win. Because this defense, again, has the argument as the best one in the NFL between Will Anderson and that defensive line, Derek Stingley in that secondary. And I'm telling you, this linebacking core, Azeez Al-Shaair and those guys at the second level, they've been better this year than they have last year. Henry To'oTo'o was really good in this game as well in run defense. They've got a 3-layer defense that's a real problem, and they get you into a fist fight every single week. But this offense is getting slowly better, especially up front, like you mentioned.
Anything else on this one? Because Houston's O-line was my most impressive. So you got anything before we move on to the next team?
Stay in the trenches on the other side. Will Anderson, freak of nature. Just nothing else to say, really. 82.6 pass rush grade, casual. 80 run defense grade, casual. 3 run stops as well. He's one of the best players in football. It feels, I don't know how many weeks in a row one of us has done Will Anderson for this, but you mentioned it. It's him. Myles Garrett's looking like he's going to win Defensive Player of the Year.
He's going to win.
But when you talk about that class of guys, that class of edge rushers, Garrett, Parsons, Hutchinson's in there, obviously. Will Anderson's in that class. He's just an elite player. He's giving him elite play every week.
I agree with you. All right, before we move on to the next game, I talked at the top of the show about the PFF promo that we have going on right now, Black Friday, get you 40% off. I'm specifically going to talk about the PFF player prop tool right now because if you have a PFF Plus subscription, you can stop betting with your gut and you can start betting with the data that's already beating the books. This is the same data NFL teams use to game plan, and now it's helping bettors cash more slips. The all-new PFF player prop tool over at PFF.com finds the edges that the books miss. It's built for bettors who want a real advantage. It's got more filters, faster performance, the new clean design, which you guys can see on the screen right now. Never been easier to find the data that actually wins the bets. You guys can see right there, even after the games are played, you can go back and you check out which numbers that we had were pluses that you won, which ones that we missed. You could check them out versus the cover probability, the trends, the hit rate, all the matchups, all that stuff is right there in front of you to find. Whether it's rushing yards, receptions, hidden edges on skilled players, this tool delivers the clarity and confidence and cashable value every single week. This isn't just another sale, folks. This is your edge for the rest of the season. Every NFL and college team uses PFF data. Now you can as well. Get 40% off. You deserve that same insight and info that the pros get. And this Black Friday, you can do it for $5.99 a month. If you get that 40% off, it is just $5.99 a month. Biggest PFF Plus deal of the year is here. Use it. Black Friday. It's the last day that you use it. 40% off. Subscribe.pff.com. Jags and the Titans. Stay in the AFC South here. Jacksonville wins this game 25-3. Top 5 graded players that we had for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Edge rusher Josh Hines Allen with an 86.3. Safety Andrew Wingard with an 84.5. Offensive guard Cole Van Lannon with a 79.6. Cornerback Monteric Brown with 78.1. And then linebacker Foyesade Luakun at number 5 for them with a 77.7. Trevor Lawrence in this game, an 84.2. Good Trevor Lawrence game here. On the Titans side of things, offensive guard Kevin Zeitler was their top graded player with an 83.8. Defensive tackle Tavondre Sweat, a 75.9. Offensive guard Peter Skoronski, a 73.8. Center Corey Levin with a 72.8. Then offensive tackle J.C. Latham with a 72.6. Cam Ward in this game, not his best, 44.7. Overall grade. Dalton, Stats told the story here.
To me, I think, it's something I mentioned in the preview about how the Jags secondary, the coverage unit, has gotten hot again. And really the entire coverage unit, I want to say, too, because it matters at the linebacker level that Devin Lloyd is back healthy. But you look at the Jags coverage in this game, and I'm not saying Tennessee is the hardest team in the world to cover, but 79.1 coverage grade as a team for the Jacksonville Jaguars. The first place Jacksonville Jaguars, Trevor's. Best coverage grade of the season, 18 coverage stops. Only 2 explosive passes allowed. When you look at the mix of zone coverages that Anthony Campanile throws at you with all the rotations, and Andrew Wingard, like you mentioned, one of their highest graded players, really is a key piece in that for as much as he moves around, plays at the second level with the linebackers. He can rotate all over the place. He can play back free if you need him to. And you look at Cam Ward on 10-plus yard throws in this game, 4 for 11, 56 yards, 2 turnover-worthy plays. He's a big game hunter, right? But the Jags were just not going to allow him to do that. The secondary's been really good on the outside. 3-man rotation of Monteric Brown, Greg Newsome, and Jerrion Jones. Jordan Lewis, great in the slot. Antonio Johnson's been playing really well lately. The last 4 weeks, coverage grades as a team. Number 1, the Rams. Number 2, Seattle. Number 3, Jacksonville. Shut down this Titans passing game. We already know they can't run the football very well, but when Cam Ward's out here trying to make big plays vertically down the field like he likes to do, the Jags just would not allow him to do it all day. They were outstanding in the secondary.
When it comes to the Jags on offense, good Trevor Lawrence day. Had 2 big-time throws in this game, 0 turnover-worthy plays, and I think that was really important because what have we talked about with Jacksonville all season long? They've got to run the football, right? Because when you put too much on Trevor Lawrence's plate, yes, he can give you those spectacular throws, but unfortunately, he has that hot and cold nature about him where you might just have 2 big-time throws, 2 turnover-worthy plays. And it's just sort of a coin flip as to which one of those matters more, which happened in the key moments. And so it's a dangerous game to play when you're that volatile with what's going on when you're passing the football. But when Jacksonville has been running the ball really well, then you don't have to put as much on Trevor Lawrence's plate. Okay, you're not forcing him to throw it deep down the field all the time. And you can sort of let him be a little bit more patient, let the game come to him, and hopefully you're eliminating those turnover-worthy plays by simply being more balanced on offense. In this game, Trevor Etienne, 12 carries, 28 rushing yards, 2.3 yards per carry average. And then Bashal Tutin, 8 carries, 17 yards, 2.1 yards per carry average. Which, I said Trevor Etienne, meant Travis Etienne. That's not ideal. Bashal Tutin, 2.1 yards per carry average. Travis Etienne, 2.3. Like, that's well below the 3.0 threshold that you want to have, just a threshold. And that's even below 2.5. You're not doing anything in the running game at that point. Tutin had a long rush yard of 7 yards. Etienne had a long rushing yard of 6 yards. The run game was not explosive. It was really not that efficient. And yet Trevor Lawrence was able to play very well, keep the ball out of harm's way. 16 for 27, 229 passing yards, had 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, and like I mentioned, those 2 big-time throws and no turnover-worthy plays. So that was key in my opinion. Not having the run game and yet getting a good Trevor Lawrence game. Now, the Titans are bad. I'm not, breaking any news there. They're currently slated to pick number 1 overall in the 2026 NFL Draft, 1 year after picking number 1 overall the previous season. They're not a good football team. They're not a good defense. They're not a good offense. But you still want to see teams that are playoff hopefuls, ones that are 8-4 like Jacksonville, be able to take care of business here. And I just think that that's what this game was. They took care of business.
And I think you do make a good point about if the run game isn't here, what do we have? Because the best part of the Titans team, the one maybe redeemable part of their team, is the run defense, right? Jeffrey Simmons, Devondre Sweat, Cedric Gray, those guys. And so they came ready to play physically up front. But what I like about Lawrence in this game, it was efficient down the field. He wasn't forcing it. He was 7 of 12 on 10-plus yard throws with a 92.5 passing grade. That's his best on those vertical throws in any game this season. If you're going to add that dimension now with Brian Thomas being healthy, Jakobi Meyers has been an outstanding addition for them too. I think he's found the chemistry with Meyers really quickly, and if you're going to lose Travis Hunter for the season and you replace him on offense with a guy like Jakobi Meyers, you're doing pretty good with the way he's playing right now. He had 90 yards in this game. I think that production is going to continue, and he's a really good fit. Kind of when you think about back to when Liam Cohen was calling plays for the Bucs, right? And you had Chris Godwin as the motion guy and somebody who wins after the catch. You kind of have Jakobi Meyers in that role now, and I think Lawrence is really comfortable throwing the ball to him. And a guy I know you're about to mention, and I know I've been screaming this for a couple weeks, you get Brenton Strange back in this offense, and it looks a little bit different. There's more 12 personnel, but it's also more two-dimensional. I know you want to go over that, but now it's once again starting to look like the offense how Liam Cohen wants it to look. And this was a game where, the Titans' run defense is pretty good, and they actually kind of shut it down on the ground, and you needed your quarterback to get you through this one. Even though it's a bad team, he got him through it pretty easily. Got to admire the way Lawrence played in this one.
Yeah, Strange is just such a versatile player for them, and he just does so much. He's such a pivotal part of how they build their offense, whether it's in the run game, or specifically the pass game as well. 73.1 overall offensive grade, 71.5 receiving grade, 70.3 pass blocking grade, 64.1 run blocking grade. Like, those are all positive grades. Remember, again, the curve that we have, or not the curve, the standard that we have for grading, it starts at a 60.0. Like, that is neutral. That is even. So anything above a 60.0, you're gaining more positive plays than you are negative plays. And so to be on the positive side of things in all of those categories, especially as a tight end where you have to line up in line, you're as a wing back, you're in the slot, you're as a lead blocker, you're maybe an X receiver to the sideline, you can line up anywhere. So to have those kinds of grades is just a testament to how consistent Brenton Strange has been this season. They want to get him involved in all sorts of different ways, and I think they're reaping the rewards of that. The most disappointing for me was Kevin Winston Jr. for the Titans. I love Kevin Winston Jr. I think that he's going to be a great player in this league. He really struggled in this game, though. 29.4 coverage grade, over 100 yards allowed. He just did not look comfortable as a slot corner. And, he is somebody who has the athleticism to be able to play in the slot a little bit, but they had him in the slot a good amount here in this game. And he was a second late. Like, you could tell, I'm watching these plays of the catches that he's given up, and he sees it just a second late, and he's like, oh, shoot, that was my guy. Like, I was supposed to carry him to the left, or, like, I was supposed to be in this spot. So I think he'll be fine. Those are things that you learn when you're a rookie, and he even missed some time earlier in the year because he was still recovering from that injury that he suffered last year when he was at Penn State. So it's been a slow growth for him, and I think really this is just a big learning year, and I'm hoping that he just hits the ground running next year.
Yeah, and I think we've seen good moments from him, and you talk about the Titans being another team. You're trying to find the keepers, right? Even on this defense, when you talk about a Cedric Gray, obviously they really like Devondre Sweat. Kevin Winston, I think, is a guy who could be a long-term starter for him. And look, it's just kind of one of those rookie games, right, where you go, okay, you get attacked and you figure out from those mistakes and move on. You want a guy who's not figuring it out on the fly because he just doesn't have to. Boy, Josh Hines-Allen just keeps bringing it, too. You want to talk about the league's best edge rushers. And, something I want to point out, if we could pull out premium stats and PFF Plus here again, is the pass rush page here in the game report. So if we go to Jacksonville, we go to the game reports, you can see a full breakdown on the pass rush page of what every pass rusher did on both sides in these games. So when you look at Josh Hines-Allen, right there near the top, 79.4 pass rush grade, 7 pressures, outstanding, 2 sacks in this game. When Cam Ward had to drop back and fire the football from behind as much as he did, Josh Hines-Allen, he's going to have nightmares about him, right? He was breathing down his neck all day. And something I want to point out on the right side there, you see the true pass set column off to the right, 90.4 true pass rush grade. So we're taking out play action, we're taking out screens, we're taking out RPOs. We are dropping back, rushing for, and throwing the football. How good are you in those moments? Josh Hines-Allen's only brought it even more so in these situations, because once the Titans fell behind, he could pin his ears back. True pass rush grade, 90.4. 6 of those 7 pressures happened there. So when you talk about a closer, a guy that you want to get ahead of games with and pin his ears back and attack quarterbacks, he's the perfect guy to do that. Those are the things you can see there also in premium stats when it comes to, okay, who's coming through as a pass rusher in the biggest moments and when they really have that opportunity, when they know the other team is dropping back and throwing the football. Hines Allen does it darn near every week, and he dominated this game once more.
Yeah, he absolutely did. Falcons and the Jets. Jets, big win, 27-24. What did you say before we started the show?
They've won 3 out of 5.
Jets have won 3 out of 5.
I don't know the last time. I think it's been probably 3 years since we've won 3 out of 5. Feels weird.
I'm going to look that up in a second after we do the top 5s, and I'll let you roll on the stat that told the story. But top 5 graded players for the New York Jets as winners of this game. Wide receiver A.D. Mitchell, top of the list. Look at that, 76.0. Offensive guard Joe Tittman with a 75.7. Running back Breece Hall with a 75.7 as well. Cornerback Brandon Stevens with a 73.4. And then tight end Jeremy Ruckert with a 68.0. Tyrod Taylor in this game a 70.1. On Atlanta side of things, offensive guard Chris Lindstrom with a 90.4. Tight end Kyle Pitts an 82.8. Edge rusher Leonard Floyd with a 78.4. Center Ryan Nuzio with a 74.5. Defensive tackle David Onyemata a 74.4. And then Kirk Cousins in this game, a 62.8 overall grade. Stat that told the story, Dalton.
Fun fact, they won 3 of their last 5 games in 2023. Beat Houston, Washington, and New England. That was Bill Belichick's last game was the last time we won 3 out of 5 games.
Oh, well, that one didn't count.
Oh, it doesn't even count?
No.
I mean, he was there.
No. He's out the door.
Oh, well, they won 3 games in a row earlier that year, too. So.
Okay. All right. So I'll still give it to you.
All right. Well, a little. I mean, it feels like a little bit of hope here, but when you look at this game, it was the difference in, and I'm not saying Tyrod Taylor was outstanding, but he was good enough to win this game, and that's all the Jets have been asking for at quarterback.
He threw the ball.
He did.
That's it. That's it.
And listen,
that's all it is. He threw the ball.
He had a couple of big scrambles too. He ran the ball as well. Tyrod Taylor.
I like Justin Fields. He won't throw the ball.
Correct.
That's the thing. I think in theory, Justin Fields could have been the perfect option for the Jets. He won't throw the ball. And Tyrod Taylor, there got to a point, this is probably a month ago at this point, where I think everybody just looked at this situation and they just said, yeah, you can't win with somebody who doesn't want to throw. You can't. For as much as you want to be running a running football team, if he won't throw the football, you're not going to win football games. And Tyrod Taylor will at least throw the football. He will at least try to win the football game. And that's what happened here.
And take his
Because it was an ugly game. This is an ugly game. It's not like it was a good game. But the Jets won because they finally had a quarterback that it would at least try. They would at least try to throw the football.
And it's a theme within this game, too. So you look at 10-plus yard throws. Tyrod Taylor, 5 of 9, 106 yards. The big touchdown to A.D. Mitchell later in the game. 66 passing grade because there was one deep ball in the end zone that was a turnover-worthy play. Threw it into double coverage. But solid stuff. You look at Kirk Cousins. And this has kind of been the concern with Kirk Cousins. That was better in their win over the Saints with the play-action shots they were getting. But Kirk Cousins in this game on 10-plus yard throws. 1 for 7, 19 yards. And that one completion was Atlanta's 6th play of the game. The Falcons' inability to work vertically, on top of the fact that they had their worst pass blocking grade of the season, and they still didn't have Drake London, and the vertical shots just weren't happening, and the Jets play a lot of man coverage, and the Falcons struggle to beat man coverage with anybody not named Drake London. Now, Kyle Pitts had a decent game, but to only complete one vertical pass the entire game, and it was your 6th play of the game, that's a problem, especially when you feel like Tyrod Taylor, okay, he came out here and, he threw the ball reasonably well downfield, which is all we're asking for. And the other real reason the Jets are playing Tyrod Taylor is we need a fair look at the rest of the guys on this team, including an A.D. Mitchell, a John Mechie, a Breece Hall even, and the run game, getting a fair count in the run game to get the box going. So I really think this game does come down to, especially vertically down the field, Tyrod Taylor did outplay Kirk Cousins, and that was the difference in the game eventually.
Yeah. Now, there was one play which I think the stat that told the story is I mentioned that this was not a good football game. Last 2 minutes of the game here, both teams had 2 possessions within the last 2 minutes. So it just shows you, like, these offenses were not really very good in this game. But when it came to the Falcons, they were 3 and out on both of them. And that's why they end up losing, because the Jets end up, doing more with their final possession that they had. the Falcons went three and out in their 2 drives that they had in the last 2 minutes of the game. And one of them, I think it was that last drive that they had, Cousins did have David Sills over the middle of the field and did hit him in the hands. He just dropped it.
Yep.
And that was one where it was like, okay, you complete that pass, you're kind of in business here. You feel better about getting into field goal range. Maybe this game ends up a little bit differently. But I think that the lack of movement on the 2-minute drill is what was the final nail in the coffin for the Falcons in this game. And then special teams as well. Like, special teams, I think, was a big issue for this team. I'm pulling up what were the special teams possessions now, because they had a muffed punt
that the Jets, they got a 2-yard, they got
that
the ball
the
at
Jets
the 2-yard
got
line
on the 2-yard line and were able to score a touchdown immediately after that. So that's a special teams blunder there. And then in the fourth quarter, to start the fourth quarter, after the Falcons kicked a field goal, they let the Jets return it all the way to the Atlanta 15-yard line, in which the Jets got another field goal there. So that didn't like tell the whole story of the game, because the Falcons scored a touchdown after that and then the Jets scored a touchdown after that. But you don't give up those special teams blunders there, you probably win this football game. Don't muff the punt, and don't let the guy return the kick all the way to the 15-yard line. That's kind of it. So that was my most disappointing, was the special teams work for the Falcons, because even with a lot of the lack of explosiveness that they had on offense, they still could have easily won this game if they take care of business in the special teams area, and they did not.
And that's been a theme for the Jets lately as well. We remember the memorable fumble from Xavier Gipson week 1 that you could argue lost them the game to Pittsburgh, but they've been really good on special teams since then, and that's what Aaron Glenn is trying to put into this team is, look, on those units, if you make a mistake, I will find somebody else who can play with enough effort and enough execution to get these special teams units going. You even look at the grading, they're a top 5 special teams unit in our grading scale.
The Jets are?
Right, for the season. Yeah, and that's all the units put together. And think about it too. Listen, what was it, 55 yards? I didn't think there was any chance Nick Folk was hitting that last kick. I don't know the last time he hit a 55-yarder, but got it done. I mean, the Jets, here's what I'll say for the Jets. They've won 3 out of 5. I think this was the goal for Aaron Glenn this season, regardless of the win total. I've really only seen one game this year, the Buffalo game, where they pretty much just didn't come out there and show up. Other than that, I will say this. The Jets play with a lot of effort and a lot of grit, and over the last 6 or 7 weeks, we have seen them play pretty good defense, honestly. I mean, even with trading away Sauce Gardner, trading away Quinnen Williams, they play with a ton of effort, and it feels, I think the goal is, remember the first year in Detroit, I believe it was 2021, when they were bad, but it was Dan Campbell just trying to put that high effort, high energy imprint in his team. It feels like the last month and a half or so that Aaron Glenn has been able to do that. And when they lose, okay, they lose because of a lack of talent. They weren't better than the Patriots. That's fine. They're not better than the Patriots. They're not better than the Baltimore Ravens in Baltimore. And even in that game, Breece Hall doesn't fumble that ball inside the 10. You never know where it goes at the end. This team's playing with a lot of effort and a lot of grit, and they're not an easy out right now. And I think that's the entire point of what Aaron Glenn and Darren Muji are trying to do, is just go, hey, yes, find players, find foundational players that are coming with us next year. But also the guys who, if you're here this year right now, if you're on our football field, you're going to play with 110% effort. They're doing that right now, and they got their 3rd win in 5 games out of it.
Yeah, obviously it didn't start out great for the Jets. And I think that Aaron Glenn was probably learning some lessons of being a head coach as well, whether it's podium stuff or timeouts or game management or like whatever it is. This is a big learning year for the Jets, and I think it's harder to accept that, like when you're going through it, like when the games are actually unfolding. But like you said, if you just take the Jets' entire season, like if you truly take a step back at this point and take a look at the Jets season, even through all the ups and downs, I think you could look at it and say, this is kind of what it was always going to be. Now, was it really frustrating, obviously, with Justin Fields in there? Yeah, like that part of it ended up being really frustrating. But the team not being as talented as other teams in the NFL, like I think that just came to be. Some lack of execution, obviously, which is frustrating, and you never want to like accept those things. But yeah, they've won the last 3 out of 5. They're competitive, at least. They're trying. The effort is there from these guys, and like you just mentioned, I think at the beginning of the year, everybody had the same thought. Well, what Aaron Glenn's going to do with this New York Jets team is going to be very similar, or at least this is what they're going to try to do, be very similar to the early days of Dan Campbell in Detroit, when it wasn't pretty, when they weren't very talented, but they cared. They cared a lot, and they showed a lot of effort, and they were trying to not shoot themselves in the foot. They were trying to be a disciplined, tough, competitive football team, and I think that over the last month, that's kind of what the Jets have been. So I think we're kind of looking at the Jets right now, and in their current state, you go, this is kind of what we thought they were going to be at the beginning of the year. And when you take the emotion of being in the season out of it, maybe you're okay with how it looks right now. So I want to shout out David Onyemata as well, who I just thought played really well in this game for the Falcons. 77.4 overall offensive grade, run and pass rush grades above 70 as well. I felt like he had some really impactful plays when they were putting him in those like one gap penetrating roles. I thought he was really good at getting past the offensive line, getting into the backfield, affecting where the quarterback was or where the run game was going, being able to cut things off. So I thought Onyemata played really well in this game.
Yeah, no, absolutely. For me, it's Adonai Mitchell. I mean, the way that he's already stepping up for this Jets team, coming over as another piece in that Sauce Gardner trade, 8 catches, 102 yards, and the big touchdown in this game. And I'll tell you what, not only did the Colts lose that game, but boy, it's a rough-looking weekend they just had, because you talk about losing to the Texans, falling out of first place. Sauce Gardner suffers a calf strain that who knows how long it'll keep him out.
Was that all it was?
For now. The report is that his Achilles is intact.
Okay.
So it's a calf strain for now.
Yeah.
You mentioned Alec Pierce being a free agent at the end of the year. Who knows if they're keeping him? And if all of a sudden, along with 2 first-round picks you sent over A.D. Mitchell to the Jets, and he starts looking good and he's putting up 100-yard games, well, you get that trade starting to look like it's tilting a little bit in the Jets' favor here if it wasn't already, especially if Daniel Jones can't at least get that team to the playoffs now in the state that they're in. I mean, the Jets have to be feeling like, on top of the wins, you always feel good when you win, but got to be feeling good about some of these young guys that are playing well, and Mitchell in this game's right at the top of that list.
Anything else on this before we move on?
Nope.
Okay, Saints and the Dolphins. Next game. Miami wins this one 21-17. It was a thrilling finish here. Almost had a touchdown at the end there by the Saints to take the win, steal the win. I feel like in Miami here. We'll get to that in a second. But the top 5 graded players that we had for Miami: safety Minkah Fitzpatrick with a 93.7, offensive guard Cole Strange with a 78.3, linebacker Jordan Brooks a 77.5, running back Devon Achane with a 75.2, and then defensive tackle Zach Seiler with a 73.3 at number 5. Tua Tagovailoa in this game, 63.1 overall grade. On the Saints side of things, wide receiver Devon Vele with an 86.5, cornerback Kool-Aid McKinstry a 76.2, edge rusher Carl Granderson a 72.6, center Luke Fortner a 69.2, and then safety Jordan Howden a 69.1. Tyler Shuck in this game a 74.6 overall. Dalton, what was your stat that told the story here in this game?
For me, I think obviously the end of the game got a little bit tight, and Tyler Shuck kind of tried to get a comeback going here for New Orleans, but I thought the Dolphins played their best game of the year in coverage, and it showed in the grading as well. 75.8 coverage grade, by far their best of the season, and it feels like to me they've simplified things on the back end. Look, if we're in zone coverage, stay in your zones, stay over the top, come up and make tackles if we have to. You see in this, now again, they're playing the Saints, not a great passing team, obviously, but they're also not a great running team, so you know what's coming.
Right.
You look at the Dolphins and how fundamentally sound they've played on defense for the last month and a half or so. We've talked about it a lot with their defensive line and run defense, and the run defense was outstanding again in this game. They only give up 65 designed rushing yards, but we know the Saints can't run the football. But the Dolphins on the back end, you had the Rasul Douglas interception. The biggest play of this game ended up being Minkah Fitzpatrick with the interception on the 2-point conversion that would have tied the game and then made it a 4-point game. And then the Saints get the onside kick, and then they drove down into what would have been field goal range if they were only down by 2. The Saints win that game on a field goal, so you got Fitzpatrick. If the Dolphins are if the Dolphins are trying to keep a pulse going in their season, Fitzpatrick there probably made the biggest play of their year, but also only 3 explosive passes allowed the entire game by this Miami secondary. all of them in the second half. Didn't allow a single explosive pass in the first half. And both of Tyler Shuck's touchdowns, they were out of structure plays where he just made really nice plays outside of the pocket. It is what it is. Sometimes NFL players make those kinds of plays. But this was easily, I think, front to back now. We've seen it from the front seven in the run game. But front to back, especially on the back end, I thought the most fundamentally sound game the Dolphins played on defense, their secondary, and I'll just shout out Fitzpatrick real quick as my most impressive player, because that pick 6, or I should say pick 2, that got him the 2 points and made it 21-17, like you see. A strip sack earlier in the game of Shuck. 3 total stops. I mean, he was just flying all over the place. I mean, if that guy's going to be your best player in the secondary, this is the kind of game that he needs to have once in a while to carry you through it. But the entire unit was really good all day.
It is funny how much those 2 points meant in this game.
Oh, and you think about
that was the win and loss. That was the win and loss right there.
The questionable-ish review on the onside kick, where did it touch somebody or not? Because it was clearly.
Oh, right.
Because remember, it was clearly short of 10 yards if it wasn't touched by a Dolphins player.
Right.
And I still don't know to this moment that it was touched by a Dolphins player.
I don't think it was either. Now, I thought it was obviously like you can't do this. I thought it was well executed enough and close enough where I was like, God, just give it to him. Yeah, but obviously the rules don't go like that.
10 yards is 10 yards.
Right, you can't do that, but I watched that play and I was like, I'd give it to him. Because it's not like there was a Dolphins defender who was sitting right there. If he would have just sort of, again, like, if he would have started going down to the ground to corral this football a half yard later, none of this changes. Now, again, like that's not how the rules work. I don't think that he was 10 yards, and so for that, I wasn't so sure that a Dolphins player touched it. I probably wouldn't have given them that one. However, it was so well executed and again, it's not like a Miami Dolphins player was right there. It's not like they were fighting for the football. That was a clean recovery right there. I'd have been like, just give it to him. Let's see what happens.
You're sitting there during the review going like, come on.
Just give it to him. Let's have some fun.
We just had a touchdown. Then we had the pick 2 from Fitzpatrick. Let's see if they hit one more shot.
That's what I wanted as a non-biased viewer. Obviously, I didn't think that a Dolphins player touched it. I don't think that they should have had it in that regards. But it is what it is. Miami still got the win there. Sad that told the story. I want to go back to something that I talked about on Wednesday's show last week, and specifically it was Devon Achane and how this Miami team has been really good at getting back to running the ball really well, specifically when they get to the outside. I mentioned how outside zone and pull lead run plays were the 2 highest graded run plays for Devon Achane and where he has had his best output, his most efficient output, his most explosive output throughout the entire season. Well, Dalton, guess what his best run plays were in this game? Outside zone, pull lead. He had an 84.1 rush grade overall. He had a 78.1 grade when he was rushing outside zone. He had an 83.5 when it was pull lead. Those were the 2 highest graded run plays that he had in this game. Achane had 134 rushing yards total. Guess what? 101 of them came on those 2 rushing concepts. They're just really good at that. They're really good at not only identifying that this is how Devon Achane really sees the field best, getting him out into space, utilizing that speed, but they're really good at scheming him up. I'm sure there are other teams that recognize this too. Oh, guess what? The Dolphins do most of their damage when they run the ball to the sideline. Let's make sure that we defend against that. Let's make sure that we've got certain players here. And yet the Dolphins and Mike McDaniel still find a way to make it happen. They're sitting here, Dalton, very quietly. Very quietly. Miami Dolphins are sitting here at 5-7. Okay? They have coming up next your New York Jets, a Pittsburgh Steelers team that looked god-awful that we'll talk about here in a little bit, the Cincinnati Bengals, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and the New England Patriots. If they go 3-2 in that stretch, they finish the season 1 game below 500. They finish 8-9. And this is, I mean, we were talking about, at one point they were, what was this? 1-6? They were 1-6 at one point this season. And we were talking about, you got to clean house. It's over. This is terrible. At this point, Dalton, I'd tell you, I think Mike McDaniel gets another year. I don't think, because they already moved on from Chris Greer. And if they were going to move on from both of them, I feel like they would have done it at one time, which tells me that ownership trusts Mike McDaniel a lot more than they trusted Chris Greer. So I feel like if they finish 8-9 or anywhere close to it, to be honest with you, unless they really go on a skid to end the season here, I think they're going to give McDaniel another year with a different general manager. I don't think he's going anywhere.
What you're telling me is they got some winnable games here coming up.
It's true. It's very true.
You know our rule, though.
They do have winnable games coming up.
Got to win them, though.
You got to win them. You got to win them.
Actually, that's the funniest part, actually, that even this game going to New York, Jets, Dolphins, both coming in feeling pretty good about themselves right now. What a weird, kind of low-key good game between teams with bad records there this week.
My most impressive in this game is Cam Jordan. 37.5 pass rush win percentage. Now, he didn't play a lot. He had 2 sacks and 3 pressures on just 8 pass rush reps, but good for Cam Jordan. And then most disappointing was actually Chris Olave. That ball goes through his hands in the end zone. Now, was it an easy catch? No. Was it a catch Chris Olave could, maybe should make? Also, yes. Goes right through his hands. Game's over at that point. Well, maybe not over, but you go up on the scoreboard, you score a touchdown. And that's you can't ask for a better situation. You can't ask Tyler Shuck to deliver a better ball, I feel like, than the one that he delivered to Chris Olave.
He played well late in this game. It took him, really the entire first half, their passing game, their entire offense was silent. But he played well late in this game, good enough. I mean, again, I think this Saints team, it is hard to judge Shuck in the entire offense because they have no run game to speak of. That's my most disappointing part is, again, I believe it was 21 design carries for 65 yards. They just – right now, they just can't run the football.
Yeah.
And at a certain point, it feels like Kellen Moore is getting to a point in every game where it's just like, I'm not even going to bother. Like, what is the point of it if we're just this?
Which is a dangerous place to be.
It is, certainly. If you're this incapable of running the football, then it gets a lot harder to throw it. But Shuck played well at the end of this game. He did.
The San Francisco 49ers went into Cleveland, beat the Cleveland Browns 26-8. Final score there, top 5 graded players that we have for San Francisco in this game. Linebacker D Winters at the top of the list with a 79.6. Safety Malik Mustafa with a 78.5. Tight end George Kittle a 77.7. Wide receiver Juwan Jennings with a 72.7. And then cornerback Diamador Lenore with a 71.0. Quarterback Brock Purdy in this game a 74.5. On Cleveland's side, their top graded player was offensive guard Wyatt Teller with an 83.9. Offensive guard Joel Bitonio with an 81.6. Safety Grant Delpit at an 81.0. Ethan Posick with an 80.3. And then edge rusher Myles Garrett. Knew we had to get him in the top 5 somewhere. 78.6 overall grade. Shedeur Sanders in this one, a 56.1 overall grade. Dalton stat that told the story.
To me, this game was won and lost on 3rd and 4th down. You look at the 49ers, 11 for 17 on 3rd down. Just outstanding. 0.693 EPA per play. Really, really efficient in English there. 81.5 offensive grade. Brock Purdy, an 84.5 passing grade on 3rd and 4th down. You look at it the other way for Cleveland. Combined on 3rd and 4th down, 3 for 15 with 1.5 yards per play and a 41 offensive grade. Shedeur Sanders with a 48.5 passing grade. And not only that, when you look at just the crucial plays that happened, especially on 4th down in this game, whether they had the ball or not, Sky Moore with a big punt return that led to a 49er touchdown.
Sky Moore, yeah. Harold
Fannin going under center, trying to run a tush push there, as so many teams are doing with their tight ends, fumbles the snap.
Yeah.
Goes the other way in Browns territory, leads to a Niner touchdown, and then Gage Larvidan with a muff punt that also led to a touchdown for San Francisco. Think about that. Three big fourth down mistakes led directly to 3 San Francisco touchdowns. That's really the difference in this game. I think when you look at early down performance in this game, relatively even, maybe leaning a little bit towards the Niners, but the 49ers on both sides of the ball won this game on 3rd and 4th down in big situations. That's the difference between a good team and a bad team.
Yep, and to be honest with you, Brock Purdy in this game, no turnover-worthy plays. To me, that's always the biggest thing for Brock Purdy is I don't need 2 to 3 big-time throws in a game. I feel like they're talented enough with the players around them, the wide receivers, the tight ends, the running backs, obviously. Like, they can get it done without that. But Brock, a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about this, putting the ball in harm's way too much. And that was a big issue for him, and I think that's been something that he's sort of been just hot and cold with because it's kind of his mentality as a quarterback. He's sort of a gunslinger type of a player. He's not afraid to pass the ball deep down the field, and coaches love that, and I'm not trying to take anything away from him there, but the fact that he had 0 turnover-worthy plays, it's a recipe for the Niners to score in the high 20s, low 30s, whatever that is, and obviously they did that again this week, scoring 26, well, mid-20s with 26 there. Stats that told the story for me. Shedeur Sanders' pressure to sack ratio. I don't mean to keep like bringing this up, but to me, until it improves and until the time to throw improves, I just don't think that this offense is going to have enough to be able to move the football well enough to win football games. Time to throw this game, 3.53. And when he was pressured, it went up to a 4.5. I mean, he hangs on to the ball for a long, long time. 33.8 passing grade under pressure in this game, and the pressure to sack ratio is a big reason why. You guys can see that in premium stats if you have a PFF Plus subscription. You can go over and check out this game like we did initially. You go to the Browns, click the Browns on the premium stats page. You can go over to offense or passing, either one, to be honest with you. And I believe it's going to show you that pressure to sack ratio that he has there. That would be, right side of the screen. You could see at the bottom, that's the total, that he has a 30.0 pressure to sack ratio. And it's just been an issue for Sanders, even going back to his time at Colorado. I don't know if it's just like he kind of thinks he's more athletic than he is, but I felt like he could get away with a good amount of stuff when he was in college. But at the NFL game, it's just so much faster. Now, I'm not saying that it was all bad for Sanders, because there were a handful of plays in this game where I felt like he did navigate the pocket a little bit better, where he was improving a little bit on his pocket awareness, his pocket movement, his pocket presence, when to get the ball out of his hands. But there were also too many times where he is hanging on to the ball too long. There was that play where I can't remember exactly where the ball was when it was snapped, but Sanders gets the ball and he's basically, his back's against the end zone, and he walks into his own end zone, pressure's coming up to him, and there is purposefully a drag route over the middle of the, like right past the offensive line, that it's like, that is your hot. Like, that's your, like, if you don't see whatever your first progression read is, you got to know that they're coming after you. Your back is against the wall in the end zone. They're trying to get a safety against you. So if your first read is not open within the first second of when you have the football in your hand, you have to look to this drag route. You have to be able to check the ball down. And the drag route was coming open if he would have looked in that direction a little bit sooner, but instead he hangs onto the ball and it's almost a safety where he's getting tackled into the end zone. That, I don't believe that was a safety. Was it?
No, I don't think so. I don't think there wasn't a safety in this game.
Okay, yeah, I didn't think so. It was kind of a close, like a bang play, but I didn't think that it was a safety. But we weren't watching the broadcast at that point. I was watching the game film. So it's those plays where you need more awareness from him. He has to be able to get the ball out of his hands quicker. We've said this before, sort of jokingly. If you take the best of Dillon Gabriel and the best of Shedeur Sanders and put them into one quarterback, you probably have somebody who runs a very, very efficient offense. Like somebody who can really win you some football games, especially with that defense behind you. The hope, in my opinion, and the reason why I had Shedeur ranked ahead of Dillon Gabriel when it came to my quarterback rankings is Shedeur at least gives you the ceiling, in my opinion. You're hoping that you can just elevate the floor for him. So the more games that he plays, the more reps that he gets, you're hoping that he becomes more comfortable, that he continues to manage the pocket better, that the ball gets out of his hands a little bit sooner like it does for Gabriel. And if you do that, then you still have a decently high ceiling with a player like Sanders who is willing to look deep downfield, who is willing to layer things in between zone coverages, whether it's the cornerbacks and the safeties, the linebackers and the safeties, be able to attack a lot of different areas of the field. But until that gets better, that's going to be the story of the Cleveland Browns on offense. He's just not seeing things quick enough. He's holding on to the ball too long. He's taking too many sacks, and he's just not getting to those easier throws quick enough. So that, to me, is continuing to be the stat that told the story here for the Browns.
Correct. And for your way too high ratio representation of that, okay, so he's been under pressure 32 times this year, 32 different dropbacks. Mm-hmm. We've held him at least partially responsible for being pressured 12 out of those 32 times, which is a lot. You're almost 40%. You're talking about in that range of him being essentially us saying, hey, you either held the ball too long or you stepped up into pressure somewhere, right? It is the biggest problem right now, because even in this game, I think it was a 76 passing grade I saw in a clean pocket. When he is clean and he can see it, and the Browns had their best pass protecting day of the year in this one, he's solid. But he's got to not mess around so much late in the play. And that's really the big problem is you have, like you mentioned, Dillon Gabriel, who's a rhythm passer who needs to get rid of the ball right now, or there's really nothing past it, or Shedeur, who you get all of this high variance with.
And the pass, and look, I won't sit here and act like he's throwing to all-stars. Like, Jerry Jeudy has been incredibly disappointing basically the entire time that he has been in Cleveland, certainly this year. Charles Tillman has not or Cedric Tillman has not evolved into the player that I thought that he could be. I still think he's a talented player. It's just he's not involved in this offense as much as I thought he was going to be. Harold Fannin Jr. obviously is a nice piece for them. David Njoku is as well, but how much are you able to really get the tight ends involved when you don't have the receivers as complementary pieces for you, and the defense can really key in on those guys in the middle of the field? I love the run game. The 1-2 combination of Dylan Sampson and Quinshon Judkins I think is something that you could build around for the future, but it's not all there yet. But even independent of that, like, Shedeur has to continue. I'd give him the whole rest of the season. Right? Like, there's no, in my opinion, there's no real reason to go back to Dylan Gabriel. You got a handful of games out of Gabriel. He kind of showed you, again, a lot of what you figured that he was going to be in the NFL. And that sounds a little harsh to me, because I want to give Shedeur more time, and people who would like Gabriel would be like, hold on, so you're not giving Gabriel any more time? It does sound harsh, but this is also somebody who I believe that Shedeur had a higher ceiling than Gabriel. So I'd give him the rest of the season, because the important part is you're probably going to be picking top 5 again. You got to know whether or not you want to draft a quarterback. And that's a question that you have to answer before you go into any other or your offseason strategies. Speaking of rookies, Carson Schwarzenegger, great in this game. His speed is phenomenal. 86.3 run defense grade, 10 total tackles, which led the team. He is all over the place, man. Love how he's able to defend the run early on, because that was an issue that I had with him when he was at UCLA. I was like, man, he's fast, but he's light. He's going to be able to defend the run the way that I want him to in the NFL, and I think he's showing that he absolutely can. So, shouting out Carson Schwarzenegger there. Your most impressive and disappointing before we move on.
Most impressive, D. Winters. Hardest job in football, taking over as a leader of this defense with Fred Warner. Without Fred Warner. And Tatum Bethune was out for this game as well, so he's playing alongside Curtis Robinson there on defense. Highest graded player for the 49ers in this game. 6 tackles, 2 stops, really good in coverage. He's always been really good in coverage, and that's really the advantage. He's kind of been that natural replacement to Dre Greenlaw. And just in general, man, the San Francisco 49ers, to that team, Trevor, they're 9-4. I keep telling, look, I'll keep saying it because I'm going to stay in the boat. Mike Vrabel's been outstanding with the Patriots. Ben Johnson's in the Coach of the Year mix. Maybe Liam Cohen if they find a way to win that division. But I'm telling you right now, this 49er team makes the playoffs with all the injuries and everything they've gone through this year. Kyle Shanahan's my Coach of the Year. And he's 9-4 right now.
You said that like 4 weeks ago.
Yeah.
That he should be in the conversation. You kind of like soft launched it.
I mean,
and I was like, I don't know. Now I agree with you.
And they're sitting there. They're going into a bye this week. This is the last bye weeks that we have coming up.
Who's the favorite? Is Vrabel the favorite?
I'm not sure. It's probably – I haven't looked at the betting odds, but I'm sure I would think that 1-2 are probably Mike Vrabel and Ben Johnson. Those are probably the 2 right now.
Yeah.
But look, the 49ers, you got the loss from the Rams. Going into their bye week, only a half game behind the other 2 teams in the West. We keep talking like, the Rams are the best team and Seattle's right there. San Fran's 9-4, sitting right behind those teams going down the stretch here. The job Kyle Shanahan is doing this year is as good as anybody in football. Continuing to work through the injuries on defense. And then, I mean, the games, think about the games they won with Mac Jones, without George Kittle, without Brandon Ayuk isn't going to play a snap for them this year, apparently. Yeah. I mean, all these things they've gone through, and they're 9-4.
Yeah.
And in prime position to make the playoffs and still compete for a really tough division.
Yep. It is. It's very, very impressive. I remember, I don't think it was this offseason. I think it was the one before. You know how we write a lot of ranking lists when it comes to the offseason over at PFF.com. I wrote the coach rankings list, and I had Kyle Shanahan at like 3 or 4. I can't remember exactly where I had him. That was the number one response I felt like I got from that article, is people being like, how is Shanahan that high? Like, it's a joke that he's that high. What's Shanahan done? There are very clearly way too many people out there who still hold the 2016 Super Bowl. Was it 2016?
Yes.
I think there's way too many people that hold the 2016 Super Bowl and then him losing the Super Bowl to Mahomes against Kyle Shanahan. And it's like, you gotta be able to look past those 2 things.
Yeah.
He is one of the best coaches of the last 2 decades.
Yes.
He is.
He just hasn't won a trophy yet.
He just has not won a trophy yet.
Top 3 right now in Coach of the Year odds. Mike Vrabel, Ben Johnson, Mike McDonald. Mike Vrabel minus 200, Coach of the Year.
Whoa.
Man.
I guess they're just going to give it to him.
I mean, They were the 4th worst team in football.
No, and
I do get it.
That was way. Hold on. Wait. That was way too negative of me. The way that came out of my mouth. That is not the way that I want that to be explained. Vrabel is very well deserving.
Oh, sure. I mean, I'm not going to say any of those guys aren't. Sure.
They're not really considering a lot of these.
Vrabel,
minus 200 is like you're not even considering these other guys.
I mean, that's with 5 weeks to go, right? I mean, Vrabel, you got a bunch of guys. This is one of the best Coach of the Year races we've had with the NFL basically turned upside down right now. But Vrabel, Ben Johnson, Mike McDonald, Kyle Shanahan, I know the Niners always have high expectations, but he should be in that mix absolutely for what the Niners have had to go through this year.
All right. Before we get on to the next game, folks, parenting, filled with all sorts of high-pressure decisions. It can be difficult to tell if we've made the right choice for our kids' future, but here's a simple decision that you can make today that could have a meaningful impact on your kids' future. That's opening up a UGMA Kids Investment Account with Fabric. Start their investment journey and give them a financial head start. Fabric by Gerber Life was designed by parents for parents to make it easy to plan for and manage your family's financial path. With the Kids Investment Account from Fabric, you guys can start investing in your child's future today. Kids can't invest while they're minors, but a UGMA Kids Investment Account allows you to invest on their behalf. It gives their investments so much more time to grow. You can use it basically at any time. When they're still kids, maybe you're dipping into it for tuition, books, summer camps, after-school activities, things like that. And then when they're adults, maybe you're helping them buy that first house, buy a first car, start a business, whatever that looks like. It's all online. Setting up an account takes you as little as just 5 minutes and get started investing with as little as $1 a day. And then you manage your child's account and monitor those investments right from your phone. No contribution limits to it, multiple tax advantages. It's all SIPC insured up to $500,000. Plus, no commission fees to it, just a low flat monthly maintenance fee. Join the thousands of parents who trust Fabric to protect their family. Start investing in your child today at meetfabric.com/PFFNFL. That's meetfabric.com/PFFNFL. MEET, fabric.com/PFFNFL. The portfolios are managed by Fort Washington Investment Advisors Incorporated. Additional services provided by Apex Cleaning Corporation. All investing is subject to risk. You can learn more at meetfabric.com.
You want something crazy real quick? Because some of our friends are doing the research on those Coach of the Year odds.
Okay, let's hear it.
Kyle Shanahan and Liam Cohen sitting at plus 2,200. Man.
See, to me,
I think it's 5 weeks to go. It's still wide open. If the Bears,
I don't know if it is.
If the Bears are going to sit there and get that 1 seed in the NFC, I mean, Ben Johnson's got a case. Mike McDonald certainly has a case. Liam Cohen, they had a cold spell in the middle of the season. They could win that division in Jacksonville. I think the race, I know Vrabel at minus 200, and he's well deserving if he does win it, but man, I feel like the race should be more open. There's probably 5 or 6 guys you could convince me and be like, yeah, that guy's Coach of the Year.
When I said I don't think that it's wide open, it's not because I think you're wrong. I wonder if just Vegas obviously very plugged into who the voters are. I just wonder if they're like, no, nobody's not going to vote for Vrabel at this point. It would take it because all right, who's the Patriots' Final 5 opponents? Let's see.
I know they have one more Bills game in there.
All right, they got the Giants on Monday Night Football.
Yep.
They have the bye week the week after. Bills, Ravens, Jets, Dolphins. The problem is that,
if that team wins,
I'm going to be honest with you.
If that team wins 13 games, I get it.
I'm going to be honest with you. If they win tonight, it's over. I think.
Oh, just tonight?
I think that if they win tonight, they will go to 11-2. And I believe that if you even give them 2 losses for the Ravens and the Bills, then they'll finish with 2 more wins after that. That's 13 wins.
Still feel like winning the division might be a big fact. If they win the division, or especially if they beat the Bills a second time.
Yeah, but how many of the Bills? What's the Bills? What are the Bills are at 8-4.
Right.
Division's wrapped up.
No, not with a head-to-head. I'll call it wrapped up now. I don't know about all that.
With the Patriots schedule the way it is?
2 games up with 5 to go?
I guess.
I wrapped up. Listen, I called Rams Panthers wrapped up 5 days before the game.
The Bills have the Bengals, the Patriots, the Browns, the Eagles, the Jets.
Okay.
So they got to go 4-1 at worst.
Sure.
In that stretch?
Winnable games. You got to win them.
Wrapped up probably too harsh.
Wrapped up was harsh.
Wrapped up was probably too harsh.
If Rams Panthers wasn't wrapped up based on our preview.
That's true. That's true.
You're taking gambles on the next 5 games for each of these teams.
It would be but that's what I'm saying.
It would be an upset at this point.
But that's why I said if they win tonight, they're at 11 wins. They're at 11-2 going into the bye week.
That's pretty good.
And then it would take the Bills almost winning out at that point. And it would take the Patriots maybe losing 3 of 4.
Colts had it locked up a few weeks ago. Now?
No, come on. That's too much time.
That's too much time. But still, 5 weeks is a long time in the NFL, Trevor.
That's true. That's true. Very true. The Minnesota Vikings travel to Seattle to take on the Seahawks.
This may be a wrap.
What's a wrap? The game?
The Minnesota Vikings.
Oh, okay. It's like, what's there?
In general.
Well, I was going to say that the Vikings physically traveled to Seattle. Their offense did not. 26-0. Scored 0 points in this game. Top 5 graded players that we had for the Seattle Seahawks. Edge rusher DeMarcus Lawrence at the top of the list with a 95.5. Linebacker Drake Thomas right behind him with a 90.7. Running back Zach Charbonnet. I know Dalton loves to see Zach Charbonnet on this list as somebody who owns Kenneth Walker in fantasy. He had a 90.6 overall grade. Linebacker Ernest Jones with an 81.8. Offensive tackle Abraham Lucas with a 76.6. Sam Darnold, a 37.9. For Sam Darnold to have a 37.9 overall PFF grade, and they won by 26. That's pretty tough to do.
It's a good football team.
And the reason why you do it is because if we go over to Minnesota's top-graded players, defensive tackle Jalen Redmond, who's having a great year, 78.5. Defensive tackle Levi Drake Rodriguez with a 73.5. Tight end TJ Hawkinson at 73.0. Linebacker Eric Wilson at 72.0. And then offensive tackle Brian O'Neill with a 68.5. This is how you get to a 26-point win despite Sam Darnold's PFF grade. Max Brosmer, a 22.0 PFF grade here. Dalton Sapp told the story.
Well, there's several of them. First, the most simple one. If you turn the football over 5 times, you're going to lose. That's just how that works. And the Vikings all the way around, there's just not many great things to say about their offense. And Seattle's offense wasn't particularly impressive in this game, but they certainly did not have to be. The Vikings, any which way you slice it, 3.2 yards per play, the 5 turnovers. Trevor, 41.7 offensive grade as a team, the worst in any NFL game this season. I didn't go beyond this season because we were crunching a bunch of games for prep this morning, but I might have to go further back and see the last time one was that bad, but it's the worst this season. The second worst EPA per play on offense by any team this season. Pop quiz, because this is a fun one. What was the only game offensively with a worse EPA per play? Tad bit of irony in this one.
Irony.
Yeah.
Was it another McCarthy game?
It was the Vikings defense against the Bengals. The Isaiah Rodgers perfect game.
Oh.
The Bengals in that game.
Jake Browning game,
The Bengals in that game, sorry, Bengals fan producers, had the worst EPA per play of any team in any game this season. This Minnesota Vikings game was the second worst. Both sides of it, man.
I mean, my stat that told the story is Max Brosmer went full Will Levis. You can't go full Will Levis.
And it's only weird because he never really showed that at all in college.
He didn't.
He came out and tried to do too much.
It was so strange. Like so I went back, and to be honest with you, like I went back and I watched this game, and there are things that Max Brosmer does that are fine.
Yeah.
Like the majority of his throws, obviously in this game, are fine. Was it great? No. I don't think anybody expected Minnesota to go in here and win this football game, but there were a handful of throws that were like, all right, cool. You're keeping things on schedule. You're moving the ball down the field. Nice. And then you have the, 4th and 1? Oh, 4th and 3? I don't remember what it was. It was the 4th down play where he's going down and he's getting sacked. And for some reason in his head, he thinks, well, it's 4th down anyways. Let me just chuck this ball anywhere. And I'm sure in his head, he was thinking, I'm going to throw this somewhere where nobody can get it. But the problem is that he's getting whipped to the ground and he doesn't have that much control. There's a pick 6. And then the other interceptions that he had, because he had 4 turnover-worthy plays in this game. The other interceptions were, it just felt like they weren't as bad as that first one was, but the next interception you go, yeah, okay, not great. And then the next interception you go, ugh, that's ugly. And then I think the 4th one, you're just like, God, that's brutal. So it just progressively got worse from turnover-worthy play 2 to 3 to 4, and then obviously that first one was as bad as it gets. again, I don't think that every throw that he made in this game was terrible, but the 4 that he did that were turnover-worthy plays were, 2 of them were backbreaking. Like, 2 of them were terrible turnover-worthy plays, and that's how you get to a 22 passing grade.
17 of Seattle's 26 points directly off of turnovers.
Yeah.
That's just...
Seattle, like, it's not like the offense was extremely explosive. I thought that the Vikings defense actually played decently well in this game. Obviously, you see Sam Darnold's passing grade because of it, and Sam Darnold's common stats were 14 for 26, 128 passing yards, 0 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. What was his big-time throw and turnover-worthy plays here?
I thought it was 0-2. I could be wrong, though.
2 turnover-worthy plays, 0 big-time throws. Yes. And then he took 4 sacks as well in this game. So
eventually, actually all of these games in the 4 o'clock slate, you're going to hear me say this, eventually it just gets to a point as an offensive play caller, if you're Clint Kubiak in this game, where you just go, yeah, we're just going to milk the clock out because they can't score on us. I think you got that in all of these 4 o'clock games. I'll explain in further detail with the other 2 after. But, that's just kind of – this was one where the most likely outcome was just going to be Seattle's better than Minnesota.
Yes.
And that's where we're at with Minnesota's offense right now.
Yeah, that's true. Sports Debate Arena in the chat is talking about how those numbers are crazy when you have, Justin Jefferson, Addison, Hockenson, a good O-line, Kevin O'Connell, and then said Justin Jefferson's got to go. I don't think – I was actually thinking about this on the walk over to the office this morning. I don't think that Justin Jefferson's going to demand a trade. I think he's pissed enough to do so, but I think he's going to talk with Kevin O'Connell about it in the offseason. And I think that they will come to a conclusion that Justin Jefferson feels okay about to not publicly demand a trade, because that's really ugly, right? I mean, he is a beloved NFL player, not just for Vikings fans, but for the league in general. For him to demand a trade would be really ugly for Minnesota, and I think that they're going to do everything that they can to avoid him publicly demanding a trade. But I think what will go into that is, for as much as the Vikings might believe in J.J. McCarthy still and hold on hope going into next year, there's not a chance that it's just him on the roster. Like, they're going to sign a legitimate competition player or trade for a legitimate competition player. Like, bring Daniel Jones back, sign Davis Mills, trade for Mac Jones, obviously, like, the Kyler Murray conversation people have had, whatever. Like, there is going to be something substantial that they do going into the offseason, because I think that's the only way that you get Justin Jefferson and not demand a trade.
You're also picking, not just throwing. I don't think they would do it.
Right, a quarterback.
But you're picking top 12 in the draft.
Right, and that's another option there. But that's what I think. That's the conclusion that I think that we get to.
And the one difference, we see J.J. McCarthy in games, right? The one difference internally is that they see him every day in practice. And Jefferson's frustrations might not just be on Sundays. It could be throughout the entire week going, because the players know. They know when a quarterback's going to go out there and not look great. So the odds are that you're right. They will go the veteran route.
Yeah.
Kind of like the way the Colts did this year.
Right.
Pretty much the same thing, possibly with the same guy.
Right.
But no, it's something to monitor there.
Yeah.
They need to ask big questions about this position.
Sorry, Sports Debate Arena is saying he meant J.J. McCarthy has to go. He said J.J.'s got to go, and I thought it was Justin Jefferson, but it was. But I think that I'm glad that we had that part of the conversation, because I don't think that J.J. McCarthy is going to be completely gone. I think he's still on this roster next year. So it just comes down to what you are doing to make up for that being the case. That's, I think, a conversation that's worth having.
Yep.
So,
there's big questions have to get asked about this offense.
My most impressive was DeMarcus Lawrence, specifically the forced fumble. It was awesome. Man, he's getting upfield. He's trying to go for a sack. He gets chipped or pancaked, whatever it is. He's way out of the play, turns around, immediately just starts sprinting, and from behind just forces the fumble on Aaron Jones, who had the ball in the outside hand.
Hey,
good fundamentals.
Sometimes the great players like DeMarcus Lawrence, they just
had
get
the great
you.
fundamentals.
Yeah.
But still, forced fumble there. That's the effort that a Mike McDonald defense plays with, and that was super impressive.
Absolutely. Another guy playing with great effort right now, linebacker level, Drake Thomas. Man, we talk a lot. Ernest Jones had the 2 interceptions in this game as well, but Drake Thomas really taking over that second starting linebacker role. How about an 80 run defense grade, a 75.8 coverage grade, 3 pressures on just 4 pass rush reps along with a sack. Drake Thomas is a guy who's really starting to emerge. There's a million guys emerging in this defense, veterans and young guys alike, but how about a 77.9 PFF grade since week 6? This is somebody who's taken over that starting role. He was hurt for a week or two. Tyrese Knight came in and played, and now Knight's hurt. Now, Thomas took the starting role back. He's been in that role for a couple months now, but he's been really solid next to Ernest Jones. And this Seattle defense, even in a game where their offense wasn't great, at all 3 levels, they got a boatload of talent, and they're playing really well.
Northwood's in the chat saying, are you all covering the Thursday and the Fridays games? We are. So we're covering that. That's coming up. But the next game that we're talking about is the Bills and the Steelers. Buffalo Bills win this game in Pittsburgh, 26-7 as the final score. Top 5 graded players that we had for the Buffalo Bills in this game as the winners. Linebacker Shaq Thompson, top of the list with a 86.8 overall grade. Cornerback Christian Benford with a 79.1. Edge rusher Joey Bosa, 78.8. Tight end Jackson Hawes, a 78.7. And then tight end Dawson Knox with a 77.4. Josh Allen in this game, a 69.6. On Pittsburgh's side of things, offensive guard Isaac Suomelo with a 93.4 overall grade. Edge rusher Alex Highsmith with a 79.7. Defensive tackle Cam Hayward, a 75.9. Cornerback Asante Samuel Jr., a 70.1, and then tight end Darnell Washington, a 69.3. Aaron Rodgers in this game, who was hurt. He got smacked in the nose was bleeding, all swollen up, and Mason Rudolph had to play for a little bit. 45.7 overall passing grade is what Aaron Rodgers had there. Dalton, I'll start. This is one of the worst Steelers games I've watched them play in the Mike Tomlin era. This one was terrible.
It's a long time.
I mean, they couldn't do anything on the ground. They couldn't do anything in the passing game. Aaron Rodgers was completely ineffective. Mason Rudolph, I think, threw 3 passes in this game, if I remember correctly. What did he throw? Hold on, I want to make sure I get this right. I want to make sure that I get this right here.
Being right is good.
Mason Rudolph threw 3 passes. All 3 of them were deemed uncatchable and inaccurate in our system.
Not great.
When it comes to the defense was crazy. We have a tweet from Mina Kimes, who we love here, who was taking a look at this film, and she shows a run play from the Bills that encapsulates what this day was. Dalton, look at the daylight. This game, the run defense in this game from the Pittsburgh Steelers was as bad as I've ever seen it from a Mike Tomlin coach group. So you're looking at this team that struggled in coverage, was horrible in run defense, could not pass the football, did not have legitimate pass catchers getting open outside of DK Metcalf at all, and had no legitimate run game at all whatsoever. This was one of the worst games that, like I said, I've seen from the Steelers. Now, I won't pretend to have watched every single snap of Steelers football over the last, whatever it's been, like 15 years that Tomlin's been the head coach. Actually, it's been longer than that.
18,
What
19.
are we on, year 18 for Tomlin? So I won't pretend to have watched every single snap, but I can't remember it looking this bad. I mean, for the Steelers, the stats that really tell the story here, Bills had the ball for over 41 minutes. The time of possession was 41-18. That's crazy. The Steelers were 3 for 9 on third downs, and in their run defense, they allowed 16 first downs on the ground. 16.
Then I can tell you, because I have another stat later, that's the second most that any team has given up in a game this season.
I bet that's one of the most that any team's given up in the last 15 years. That is really bad. And I saw this tweet from Nick Farabaugh. He said, TJ Watt said that he's, quote, never seen a team run the same play as many times as the Bills did this week. They just kept spamming duo and mid-zone. Watt said that the Steelers tried many different things to adjust, and it did not work. The initial game plan was not good. The adjustment game plans were not good. It was, again, this game feels like rock bottom for how this Steelers team can play.
Yeah, I'll start with that end of it, the run defense side, because that's the obvious one. What is it? It was they kept saying it's the record for a visiting team going into Pittsburgh for rushing yards. I didn't even see that one, but again, I believe it. I think Jim and Tony were talking about that. They were on record watch for an opposing team's number of rushing yards in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, because what was it? It was
what was the final 270 or somewhere in
249 was the final.
Yeah, so.
God, 4.9 yards per carry average.
The problem is the Steelers, when I went back and watched this, they did try to adjust. And yes, nothing was working. The problem right now to me is their adjustments were constricting everything towards the line of scrimmage even more. Now, when they had 8 guys in the box, they only gave up 3 yards a carry. Mm-hmm. The problem is they had no way of getting out of that. Mm-hmm. When there was 7 or fewer regular or light boxes, 7.5 yards per carry.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Because the problem is with the Bills and all the multiple tight ends and Terrell Shavers in there and fullbacks and everything they can throw at you, they're just playing the numbers game.
Right.
And they're just going to keep hammering it until it doesn't work. So, I mean, and the Steelers, there's multiple problems here. I think after a while the fits were just a mess. Mm-hmm. Their linebackers, to me, they have an issue and a bad habit of everything starts downhill. You saw the runs that James Cook was bouncing to the edges, right? And then he's one-on-one with Joey Porter or any of the other corners. Their linebackers, to me, get so close to the line of scrimmage they can't see. And they can't react back to any sort of cutback. So when they step up like that, and you mentioned those duo runs, so now that one in that tweet we showed looks like it was going right down the pipe. But a lot of them in this game, when you're running duo as a back and you're pressing the A-gap on either side of the center, you're reading the linebackers at that point. You're looking to the second level. And when they step up that hard, you take the jump cut out and you bounce it. And it was just over and over. And I've had issues with this Steelers team when I watch them they have a hard time getting lateral on the defensive line because they got just a bigger defensive line that is built to stop downhill running. The problem is the linebackers are like that too. So if you want to press and jump to the outside, you can do that any given time you want, especially when you play with the leverage in formation like the Bills do. It is a schematic problem. And the fact that, look, if any time you have 7 or fewer in the box, you're giving up 7.5 yards a carry.
Yeah.
You're going to lose.
Yeah.
You have to. And to me, a lot of that is about their linebackers. Patrick Queen, Peyton Wilson, Cole Holcomb, whoever's out there. They step up so hard towards the line of scrimmage that everything's so constricted. And even there came a time in this game where it was trying to blitz. Blitzing between the tackles is very often not the answer to stopping the run when you're having a problem with it. Mm-hmm. You need to stay patient and read it out properly. And it just looks like they're stepping up, and if they think if they keep moving forward, that's going to work. That's not how that works. And there was times when, especially when they had 5 down, the D-line was okay. I won't say it was great, but to me, a lot of it is about their second-level guys just stepping up into places where they don't need to be.
Yeah.
And that's how all those outside runs happen.
Yeah, I mean, when I was watching this game back, it felt like they were just getting moved off the ball in the middle in the early parts of the game. And yeah, they tried to adjust by getting a little bit tighter and just being a little bit more aggressive towards the line of scrimmage. And I didn't look up the defenders in the box numbers, but I think that really encapsulates how this game was going. When they're plus numbers, they were able to fit it pretty well because you're plus numbers. But anytime they were even numbers or less, they were getting blown off the ball, and very clearly. You're averaging 4.9 yards per carry average in total. There's just so few football games that you're going to win when the team's able to control the ball like that. And they controlled the clock. They kept the Steelers' offense off the field. The Steelers' offense wasn't good on third down anyway, so they couldn't control the ball themselves. This was about as bad as a football game can get. And I think that the final score reflected that, and the fact that they only scored 7 points in this game and their opponent scored 26. So this is tough for the Steelers. And the Steelers already had, in my opinion, a lot of questions going into this upcoming offseason. Now, I saw Adam Schefter tweet this out, and I kind of agree with him. Like, there's a lot of Steelers fans that want Mike Tomlin fired. Are the Steelers going to fire Mike Tomlin? I don't think it's possible. I think the only thing that happens here is Mike Tomlin walks away. Well, you're going to fire Mike Tomlin? But that's what I'm saying. Like, if there's some sort of mutual parting between these two teams, I could see it. But if Tomlin's like, no, I'm still coaching this team, I don't think the Steelers are going to fire him.
I think if they miss the playoffs, there will be a conversation.
I do not think that the Steelers will fire him. I don't think it'll happen. And if they miss the playoffs, which it feels like they're going to, right? If they miss the playoffs and he doesn't get fired this offseason and he does not step away, which I don't think is going to happen. Because if Mike Tomlin steps away from the Steelers, how old is he?
Mid-50s?
He's not that old.
No, he's not.
He's 53. That's, I think, the big issue with him is like...
Oh, he'll get hired somewhere immediately.
But I know, but like, does he want that at this point? He was a head coach for 18 years, you know? Does he want to keep coaching? I think maybe he's like, hey, I'm going to ride this with Pittsburgh until it's over. So he's not looking to leave.
I think if one of those desperate teams comes knocking and offers him $15 million a
Okay,
year.
it's fair.
You don't think the New York Giants would call him?
It's fair. If he wants to keep coaching after this, then I could see them coming to a mutual parting of ways. But if he is like, nah, I mean, however longer I'm with the Steelers, then that's it. I'm just going to retire a legend. I'm going to retire a Hall of Famer and a Steelers legend and not coach for anybody else. Then I think he's probably the coach next year. And I don't know how much better it's going to go next year with the roster currently the way that it is, and especially if he's still going to be the one who's orchestrating it because he's the one who put this roster together. Then a year from now, I wonder if they go, all right, Mike, thank you for your service. Let's figure out a way to mutually make this beneficial for everybody involved. But I don't think that happens this offseason. I'm very skeptical that
problem is, where do they go from here? Let me throw some numbers at you. Okay, in this game, all right, 52.4 offensive grade as a team. That's their fifth time this year under a 60. And we talk about 60 being the baseline. Mm-hmm. Not good. 36.4 passing grade, regardless of if it's Rodgers or Rudolph over the last 4 games. 36.4. One play in this entire game that gained 20 yards, and it was a throw down the middle to Darnell Washington in the fourth quarter.
Hey, Darnell Washington.
Good player.
Good player. For
the season now, offensive grade, they're 26. They're sitting between the Jets and the Dolphins. They're in the bottom 10 to 12 of every offensive number, even with the little hot streak they had playing Cincinnati twice and playing Cleveland and teams like that, right? I find myself sitting here after watching, and the Bills' run game and everything, they're fantastic. They're a more physical team on both sides of the ball. That's why they won this game. That's why they generally win games. Last year, after they lost in the playoffs, when they got whacked by Baltimore, I said, this team, whether they keep Tomlin or not at that point, needs to have a real conversation, a big conversation about what offensive football is supposed to look like in Pittsburgh. This is not any different than it was down the stretch last season. No. And instead of Wilson and Pickens, it is just an older version of it with Rodgers and Metcalf, and it looks worse. And Rodgers with the injuries, this looks the same as last year with the Jets, where he's getting banged up because he can't move anymore. The arm isn't what it used to be. Here and there, sure, still makes quick decisions, sure, but at this point, this Steelers offense is a pretty cleanly bottom 6 to 8 offense. They can't move the football. They can't do anything.
Right.
So, and when just like the last game we just talked about, I'm going to do it again with the next one also. At a certain point, if you're the Bills, just don't hand them the ball. The one time the Steelers scored was the James Cook fumble. If you don't just hand the Steelers the ball at your own 30, they can't score. They once again, they're going to go into this offseason now with a likely retired quarterback and DK Metcalf making $30 million a year, going, all right, what do we want to be on offense?
Yeah.
And if that comes from the head coach or the OC going or a total rebuild or what, it's a question that I've been asking since January, this entire year, and it hasn't been answered. And it looks the same as the last 5 games of last year.
And that's how you get to where we're at.
Yep.
When you don't really have an offensive identity built around the players that you have, because the players that you have, it's kind of like, all right, what are we leaning on? Like, what's our philosophy? And I think that's a really good way to put it. Anything else on this game?
Most impressive guy, Christian Bedford, usually one of the Bills' best players. He was again in this game. Fumble return, touchdown, interception, only 1 catch allowed for 2 yards. Can appreciate a good effort on that side. The Bills' defense did play well in this game as well, but the Steelers certainly have a lot of issues on both sides of the ball.
Raiders and the Chargers. Before we get to the Friday and Thursday game. This is the last Sunday game that we're talking about here. Chargers win the game. 31-14 is the final score here. Top 5 graded players that we have for the Los Angeles Chargers. Running back Kamani Vidal. Top of the list with an 83.9. Edge rusher Khalil Mack with an 82.9. Edge rusher Toli Tuipulotu with an 80.7. Wide receiver Trey Harris a 79.3. And then defensive tackle Deshaun Hand with a 76.7. Justin Herbert in this game a 61.1. On the Raiders side of things, tight end Brock Bowers an 87.4, safety Jeremy Chin an 87.0, cornerback Caillou Blue-Kelly with a 78.4, linebacker Jamal Adams a 73.6, center Alex Kappa with a 66.9, and then Geno Smith in this game a 56.2. Dalton, it gives me no joy to say that the Raiders are now basically just the same thing on both sides of the ball. On the defense, you have Max Crosby.
Oh, yeah.
And that is it. And on offense, you have Brock Bowers. And that is it.
Yep.
And I really hate that for this team because they've had to sit here and watch their defense be Max Crosby and Max Crosby get basically no help for the last 5 years. And now we're sitting here where the offense has regressed to the point where it is just Brock Bowers. Ashton Jeanty, I think he is incredibly talented. He's not a difference maker for them right now. He is not in his rookie year. Now, can he do it alone? The offensive line's an issue. The lack of pass game is a compliment. Like all of these are true and they go into it. But Jeanty himself has not been as good as I thought he would be right out of the gate getting into the NFL. So he has not been as good as I thought he was going to be. The offensive line is obviously banged up and not playing together. The offensive philosophy between what they wanted the pass game to be and Geno Smith to be with Chip Kelly versus Pete Carroll, like all of this was just very clearly never going to work because it just does not seem like there was any cohesiveness at all whatsoever. It feels like John Spytek put the team together. Chip Kelly was brought in to call plays, but it's only Pete Carroll. Like Pete Carroll wants to run his offense, he wants to run his defense, he wants to play his players, and it's just there's not a lot of cohesiveness right now. And to me, that shows up on the field. Jeanty has a 2.1 yards per carry average in this game. If Jeanty doesn't average at least 3.5 yards a carry, I'll tell you that the Raiders probably lost by double digits. And that's what happened in this game. Brock Bowers had one of the craziest touchdown catches that you'll see this year. I can't even say this week because the Traylon Burks catch was also insane.
And the Puka Nacua one.
And the Puka Nacua catch was also insane. That's why I said one of the craziest catches that you'll see all year. Didn't matter. Didn't even come close to mattering.
No.
They got more than doubled up in this game. The Raiders right now are 2 players. Max Crosby, Brock Bowers.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. And Jeanty, I just feel bad for him because this team, I mean, you've got Stone Forsythe starting at left tackle. Trev, the last 2 games, you know they've had starting at center?
It's Kappa, right?
Alex Kappa.
Yeah.
He never played center in his career before these last 2 games. And he's starting at center for this team.
Buccaneer great.
Buccaneer great, Super Bowl champion.
At guard.
Yes, at guard, not at center.
Yeah.
But, you know. But, I mean, this
They're
is...
still playing JPJ at guard?
Well, he's hurt right now.
Okay, so he's hurt right now. Okay.
They're
because I know Meredith got hurt.
Meredith is hurt. JPJ is hurt. They're starting at right guard. Well, Antonio Mafia. I'm not sure which one started. Antonio Mafia. I think Caleb Rogers started this game and might have got hurt.
Hey. They actually played him.
They actually played him.
Good for them.
Right. Or is it? Yeah, no, I mean, this is the same as the last 2 games we just talked about. The Chargers had no reason to respect this team. Here's the fun stats on the Raiders offense, all right? Those 2 touchdown drives. They got 2 touchdowns from Brock Bowers. Those 2 drives, they had 131 yards. All right, cool. 2 good drives. The rest of the game, 8 other drives, they had 25 yards on 8 other drives. And the craziest part is there was a different Bowers catch where he gained 27 yards. Think about that. Other than that one play, those 8 drives got -2 yards.
I'm letting that breathe because that was a good one.
Yeah, they're moving backwards.
That's what negative means.
Legitimately,
I'm telling you,
backwards.
man, they are 2 players.
And if you're
on a 53-man roster, they are 2 players.
And if you're the
I've never seen it quite like this.
And if you're the Chargers, I don't blame you. Just like the Bills, same thing. Chargers ran the ball 43 times in this game.
Why not?
Exactly, why not? Just kill the clock at that point.
Right.
As long as you don't turn the ball over, you're good. Yeah. Kamani Vidal, most impressive guy, absolutely, because I'll tell you this about him. 126 yards in this game. Trevor, 124 of them after contact. It's not like the Chargers' offensive line is any good right now with all their injuries, but they make it happen. He forced 11 missed tackles.
Yeah.
How about it? I mean, but it's the same idea of just this opponent's offense is so bad that we can just kind of milk the clock, and as long as we just throw up a couple scores up there, and you could basically the most casual 17-point win you'll ever get in your life.
Yeah, that's how it felt. That's how these Raiders
the only other problem is now you've got Justin Herbert with a broken bone in his left hand that he's going to have to play through, but that's also life behind this offensive line,
You just wear the big glove.
You just wear the big glove, yeah.
The big glove again.
Yeah. Trey Lance came in this game for a little bit.
He did.
Looked respectable. That's
all you need to do against the Raiders, unfortunately.
When you're a backup.
I'm not trying to be overly harsh on the Raiders, but like we talked about Mike Tomlin. Maybe it's time. Pete Carroll. It might be. We are getting very close to a one and done.
I don't think we could have drawn up a worst case scenario for the Raiders.
I agree. I was bullish on I liked the Raiders. I didn't think they were going to make the playoffs, but I thought they were going to be a competitive team. And now we're at the point where Pete clashed so much with what Chip Kelly was doing as the play caller that he installed, and he's clearly clashing so much with the players that John Spytek drafted to be on this team that how do you bring him back? You cannot bring back the lack of continuity between the front office and the coaching staff. It's not even results. You can't bring back this continuity for another year. It's not even like, we're working together. It's just we're turning over the roster. We'll execute better next year. You're not even playing the guys that you drafted. Anyways.
And the more I think about this, because I wanted to see the draft order real quick while you were talking. They're picking fourth right now based on strength of schedule, tiebreakers, things like that.
Yeah.
They could be picking second. If they're in the top 5, they're taking a quarterback. Gino's gone.
Well, like we talked about this last week. We did the Fixing the Raiders podcast on NFLSE. Gino's contract is kind of tricky for him to just be gone.
$18 million, but when you consider that's like call it your quarterback budget, then fine.
But at that,
just eat $18 million at that point.
But what I'm saying is that like if you've got to eat $18 million, you kind of might as well just have him on the roster because then you don't have to start the rookie that you draft immediately. So you could start Gino, and maybe he starts 2 games for you. Maybe he starts 4. Maybe he starts 7. Maybe he starts 12.
Start O'Connell then. I think if Pete Carroll's gone, Gino's gone. That's his guy.
I think that there's a reality, but also I just think that it's worth looking at, like, if you're going to pay all of this money on dead cap anyways to cut him, if you believe in him at all whatsoever, you just keep him and let him be a bridge guy.
Kind of hard to believe in him either. It's been outside of week 1, it's been bad.
But that's all I'm saying. It's like I think a lot of people look at Geno Smith and they go, "Oh, he's off the roster for sure." And I think there's a path where he is still on the roster. You just very clearly have another quarterback that's there. If you're not going to draft a rookie, yeah, you probably are getting rid of him because you're not going to. I'm just throwing out this name just because. Like, you're not getting Mac Jones and then also keeping Geno. At that point, you would get rid of Geno. But if you're drafting a quarterback, there's a world where he's still on the roster next year just to be a bridge guy for you. But there has to just be massive changes next year for sure. And he's Pete's guy. So if Pete goes, it's realistic to think that Geno could also go here. All right, hey, I told you, for Thanksgiving, my father-in-law was making a feast of meats.
I saw the smoked wings.
And he absolutely did. Boy, do those wings hit. Whew. I don't think I've ever had wings on Thanksgiving, going to be honest.
I don't know. Maybe I have.
Maybe. It's just you never really think of it, but I'm a wing connoisseur.
Not chicken wings.
So why not?
Yeah.
Why not? And there were a lot of other things that we were growing up. Hopefully there were a lot of really great things that you guys were growing up. And the grilling does not have to stop with Thanksgiving, especially with Omaha Steaks. Whether you're sending an unforgettable gift or treating yourself to everyday perfection, Omaha Steaks delivers the world's best steak experience, folks. Gift USDA certified tender steaks, juicy burgers, cozy, convenient comfort meals, and so much more. And now, during their cyber sale, you can get 50% off site-wide and add an extra 20% off select favorites over at omahasteaks.com. Walt, are you listening in the chat? I know you were talking about grilling some pork chops before. They got all sorts of good stuff. You got to check it out. Don't miss the best deals of the season. An exclusive limited time offer. Plus, our listeners get an extra $35 off with the promo code PFF at checkout. Terms apply. See the site for details. I loved everything that we had at Thanksgiving. We had this is this is funny. So I told you that my father-in-law bought way too much stuff. He had a tenderloin, like a full beef tenderloin.
Oh, wow.
That we ate Thanksgiving, like the main Thanksgiving meal, like 2 p.m. And he was like, all right, I'm going to throw the tenderloin on next. And we're like, we can't. like it's just going to go to waste. Don't do it. He's like, all right, I'll throw it on in a couple hours. And we're like, no, come on.
No, give it like 2-3 hours while you eat so early.
We waited until the next day. Because the company was still there, the grandparents were still there, everybody was still there. So the next day, you just grilled it the next day. So it was like the Thanksgiving feast.
Black Friday beef.
There you go, baby.
Nailed it.
There you go. Omaha Steaks is fantastic. Check it out. Save big on unforgettable gifts with Omaha Steaks. Visit omahasteaks.com. 50% off site-wide, extra 20% off on select favorites during their cyber sale, and plus that extra $35 off. Use that promo code PFF at checkout. That's omahasteaks.com. Promo code PFF at checkout. Terms apply. See the site for details. All right, what do we got here? Bears, Eagles. Bears, big dub.
Talk about Black Friday beef. Boy, oh boy, what the Bears did to the Eagles. How about it?
No, that'll work because the offensive line, and we're going to talk about the offensive line here in a second. That works. Top 5 graded players that we have for the Chicago Bears, who are now the number 1 seed in the NFC playoff picture. How about that? Running back Devon Achane at the top of the list with a 87.5. Devon Achane better be buying his offensive lineman some Black Friday beef, honestly.
DeAndre Swift.
What did I say?
Achane. You're stuck on Devon Achane, I think.
A good football player. Yeah, DeAndre Swift. Well, I mean, Devon Achane could do it as well. He had 134 rushing yards this past week. So DeAndre Swift, he should probably do it as well. Thank the offensive line for a great offensive day. We'll get to that in a second. Cornerback Nashawn Wright, an 80.9 overall grade. Safety Jaquan Brisker with a 77.7. Running back Kyle Monungai, a 75.6. And then offensive guard Jonah Jackson rounds out at number 5 with a 74.1. Quarterback Caleb Williams, 63.1 in this game. On Philly's side of things, wide receiver A.J. Brown with a 90.2. I know Dalton loves that, being on his fantasy team. Doesn't care if the Eagles didn't win. A.J. Brown 8. Cornerback Quinyon Mitchell with a 79.6. Center Cam Jurgens with a 74.0. Offensive tackle Fred Johnson, a 72.8. And then offensive guard Tyler Steen at number 5 with a 69.8. Jalen Hurts, a 58.3 overall grade in this one. Stat that told the story, Dalton.
The Bears were the more physically dominant team in this game. The combination of their offensive line, those two backs running so well, and Ben Johnson's just mastermind play calling in the run game controlled the pace of this game from front to back. Remember you mentioned before, was it Buffalo? Which team was it that you mentioned had 16 rushing first downs?
Buffalo, yeah, against the Steelers.
And that I said that was the second most of the season?
Yeah.
The most of the season was the Bears in this game with 17.
They had 17?
17 of them. Most in any game this season.
Wow.
How about this one? 89.5 rushing grade as a team.
Yeah.
The best that we have in the 20-year history of PFF for the Chicago Bears.
Wow.
Best rushing grade they've ever put up in this game against this Eagles defense. 281 rushing yards. The second most since 2006 for the Bears in a game.
I was going to say Matt Forte era. No? Who was it?
How about a few weeks ago against the Bengals here in Cincinnati? Oh. Their 2 highest rushing totals in PFF history have come in the last 5 weeks. Think what Ben Johnson
he's cooking.
is doing with this off with Darnell Wright and Drew Dahlman, Jonah Jackson, his guy. You saw that Joe Tooney. They had Ozzie Trapillo starting at left tackle in this game.
Good player.
The tight ends, all 3 of them, Loveland and Kmet and Durham Smythe getting involved. Both backs getting involved equally. Both of them with 100-yard games. I mean, because what is it? Did they say? I think it was first time. This was the stat flying all around Chicago because I was there for Thanksgiving and Black Friday. First time the Bears had 2 different 100-yard rushers in a game, I believe, since 1985. Pretty good year in Chicago.
Wow.
Yeah. This and my most impressive, their offensive line is just unreal.
Yeah, I agree. It has to be
unreal. I believe the 3rd highest graded offensive line overall in football right now.
They had 115 yards before contact.
Silly. They went into Philadelphia and just physically mashed this team.
39 minutes of time possession.
Silly. Just first level, second level, third level. if there was a fourth level, they wouldn't have cared. They would have ran them over too. What Ben Johnson is doing, he's really built this team and this offense to where Caleb Williams is actually the very last variable of their success right now. Mm-hmm. And if you get a really good Caleb game, Caleb kind of just had to play his role in this game and had the big play action pass to Kmet to really seal it. But Ben Johnson has built this offense like he had with the Lions. And he's done it in a matter of, 13 weeks?
Yeah.
He's done it in a matter of 12 games. It's insane what they're doing up front right now. And they went into this. And think about what the Eagles just did to his former team, to the Lions a couple weeks ago on Sunday Night Football, shutting them down in the run game. He went in and blasted this team. One of the best front sevens, one of the best defenses in football.
Yeah, well, we praised them for the offensive line additions that they made this offseason, right? Because they were so bad on the interior offensive line last year. And what do? They go get Joe Thuney, they go get Jonah Jackson, they go get Drew Dahlman. And when you combine that with Darnell Wright and drafting a guy like Ozzie Trapillo, who's been able to step in, for Braxton Jones, I mean, it's just things are just going so well for them. And now you get the wide receivers getting into the blocking game for the run game. The tight ends, you mentioned how confident they are in multiple tight ends. I mean, like you said, like it's no insult to Caleb Williams at all to say that he is the last variable for them, because when they have the ability to just dominate on the ground the way that they are, you're going to keep handing the football off. And you're just going to have that success. Why? Because it's low risk and it's high reward because of how explosive you are in the pass game. 115 yards before contact is nuts. Caleb didn't have to do squat in the best way possible. And I'm not saying that is a negative Caleb Williams thing. That is brilliance from your head coach when you have the ability to do that. So we talked about head coach of the year odds earlier, and how Ben Johnson is right behind where Mike Vrabel is. I agree with you that I think that he should be right there in that conversation.
And credit to Caleb for understanding the assignment through this hot streak the Bears have had. Think about this game where it's like, okay, I'm not going to do a whole lot. It's a really good team in coverage. I'll make the one play action play that I need to late in the game. Other games, though, the Giants, right? They're down 2 scores. All right, go time, right? Bengals, final drive, winning drive, that throw to Colston Loveland, right? Caleb Williams, they're getting him to just have to unleash that in moments. But if they don't have to, love it. There's no reason to put pressure on that kid. There's enough pressure on that kid as it is. And Ben Johnson has done everything in his offense to get the entire city of Chicago off of Caleb's shoulders. It's brilliant.
Right.
I mean, he's really, you talk about, watching this game, the way he called this game, I felt like I was watching like prime Sean Payton call plays, or maybe even Sean Payton now. Like, that's how good this play called game was from Ben Johnson, especially in the run game. And honestly, most coaches are like that. Hey, if we don't have to put the ball in the air and we can just beat you up on the ground for 60 minutes, we'll just do it.
Yeah, and I think it's a compliment to Caleb Williams as well, right? Because when we watched him at USC and Oklahoma, I think there was a narrative about him that was like, hey, this is sort of just who he is. He's this Superman type of a quarterback, and this is the kind of style that he plays. And to think, could he take I'm using back seat in air quotes here, like, could he take a back seat to not be the main component of an offense? And I think a lot of people probably would have watched him at USC and been like, I don't know. Because if you ask him to be a low volume type of a passer, are you going to get the efficiency and explosiveness that you want? Because that wasn't really who he was when he was at Oklahoma and USC. So I think that his part in this offense over the last few weeks signals growth from Caleb Williams to be efficient enough with lower volume because the rest of your team is playing well. And I think that it's taken him probably a while to get out of that identity, right? Because at USC, we talked about this, where he probably had, let's say, 10 drives a game at USC, right? Let's just, like, I'm kind of just picking a number, right? Like, let's say he had 10. He probably thought to himself, if I don't score mainly touchdowns on 6 or 7 of those drives, we will not win this game. My defense is not good enough. We have to put up 50 or we will not win. And that mentality of a player for 2 straight years. Now, coming to the NFL, I think we saw him struggle with that last year. I think we've seen him struggle with it at times this year, but very clearly he's comfortable in what his role is in the offense. And I'm very excited to see now, okay, now we've seen that you know how to be a lower volume and a little bit more of an efficient quarterback. What if we need you to change that on command? That's the last step for Caleb Williams to potentially being one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. Is, can you have a game where you attempt 22 passes and play well? And can you have a game where you attempt 45 passes and play well? And can you do that on command? And if you can, that's when we start talking about him as one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. So I think that's the next step for him.
And I think Johnson did a great job getting through to Caleb, hey, this is a game where we got to live to play the next down. There were moments I thought where whether it was throwing the ball away or just holding it and taking off running and getting a first down on the ground or just making the safer decision. Because we know Caleb, it's in there. There's reckless decisions in there at times. But in a game like this, again, against a struggling Philly offense, hey, if we don't turn the football over and we're running like this, just don't throw it away. Just make the safe decision, live to play the next down. I did think he did a really good job of that in this game. So all the way around, this is the biggest win the Bears have had in a long time.
Last thing for me, most disappointing, just the Eagles' offense overall. 45.3 passing grade on their first 9 drives of the game. They had 11 total drives in this game. So if you take out the 2 last drives that they had for garbage time, just a 45.3 passing grade, negative 0.311 EPA per play on those first 9 drives. They were 1 for 8 on third downs before those final 2 drives as well. There's not a lot of rhythm in what's going on here. And I went back and I watched the first 2 quarters of this team on offense, and it's not terrible. Like it's not void of talent. It's not void of big plays or good plays or things like that. It's just something here or there. A tipped pass on third down. Jalen Hurts being slightly late and the ball is a little bit behind a receiver on third down. And okay, now all of a sudden we're punting or we're kicking a field goal or whatever it is. It just seems to be something specifically on third downs for the Eagles that is a big reason why they have not looked as sharp as of late. And so just too volatile and too unpredictable. There's not a lot of in rhythm with what's going on right now, and I think the lack of run game, the way that they had it last year, is a big reason why.
And Dennis Allen sent pressure at him 44% of the time, and Hurts with a 42 passing grade in this game against the blitz. I think he really felt like he could disrupt Hurts' rhythm in the pocket, and right now teams just aren't afraid of the Eagles' run game.
Yep.
They're not afraid of it at all, and they have every right not to be afraid of it.
The Packers and the Lions. Packers go into Detroit and get the victory 31-24. Top 5 graded players that we had for Green Bay. Wide receiver Dontavian Wicks at the top of the list with an elite 91.7 overall grade. Linebacker Isaiah McDuffie with an 87.0. Edge rusher Micah Parsons an 82.9. Wide receiver Christian Watson a 79.4. Offensive tackle Zach Thomas 74.0. And then Jordan Love in this game a 91.2. He was excellent. On the Detroit side of things, wide receiver Jameson Williams at the top of their list with a 91.2. Safety Brian Branch an 83.6. Offensive tackle Penei Sewell a 75.0, linebacker Derek Barnes with a 73.8, and then offensive guard Tate Ratledge at number 5 for them with a 71.8. Jared Goff in this game at 81.0. Dalton, I want to give you a shout out here just for calling this on the Wednesday show, how important Christian Watson was probably going to be to this Packers team and unlocking that vertical aspect of their game, and where Christian Watson was a factor in that area in this game, Dontavian Wicks was as well. So your point of having these guys being reliable vertical threat players to really open up this offense, I thought stood true in this game and was a big reason why they were able to win.
Absolutely. I think that threat, especially with them not having Tucker Kraft and having to play more 11 personnel since he left, they've got to find a way to be dynamic on the outside, right? Because you could argue that Tucker Kraft was their most dynamic receiver, tight end, wide receiver, maybe the most dynamic offensive player, especially with what he adds to in the run game and how you can change up personnel. They can't really do that now. So getting Watson in there to essentially do what Matthew Golden was drafted to do. Golden missed this game due to injury, but be that speed threat, be a guy who can make contested catches down the field. Wicks also with just a fantastic touchdown catch in the left corner of the end zone there. And then Jordan Love putting it all together. This to me was one of, if not the signature game, one of the 2 or 3 signature games of Jordan Love's career. That's how good he was in this game. 91.8 passing grade, 4 big-time throws, 4 touchdowns, came through in every moment when they needed him to. And, Trev, something that I like looking at when we're going through the pages and prep and shows and all of that is when we go into the game reports in Premium Stats and PFF Plus, okay, we get the pressure and depth report, which really tells you there's a big breakdown of a lot of the splits that gives you on that page of pressure, clean pocket, blitz, not blitz, the depth of the target, all of that stuff. When Jordan Love was in a clean pocket in this game, 94.5 passing grade. All right, you see it right there. Click in there, go to pressure and depth under passing there, and it gives you all the splits on all the different dropbacks here. Two things that stand out to me. This is one of the first pages I look at with every game is what was the quarterback splits? Was he great in play action? Was he great against the blitz? Clean pockets, 94.5 passing grade. All right, and that's at 42% pressure rate's pretty high there. If you get up above 40, that's pretty high. But when he was clean, he was outstanding, and that correlates to in this game when the Lions chose not to blitz him and they just sent a 4-man rush, he was awfully comfortable, 94.4 passing grade. Jordan Love was so comfortable in this game. The threat of Watson being added the last few weeks vertically is opening up all the spacing that he needs to make any throw on the field. And you want to talk about clutch. It just any time he needed to make a throw in this game, he was the best player on the field.
Yeah,
this was the best game that he's played, I think, this season. His two highest graded games since the start of last year have come in the last 3 weeks. This game and the Giants game a couple weeks ago. If he's going to get hot now, I mean, we got 2 Packers-Bears games left to go. It's going to get to be a whole lot of fun here with Green Bay if Jordan Love is going to play like this consistently. That's all I can say. I was watching this game, and I was like, man, this is one of those games where Jordan Love was unstoppable.
Yeah, I went back and I watched this game, and he's clearly very, very confident in this game. Like, he was clearly just very excited to play in this game. I don't know if it was just the Thanksgiving, the rivalry part of it, like whatever it was. He was very, very pumped up about this game. Now, I will say, 91.8 passing grade. The 4 big-time throws is the reason why, right? That's doing a lot of heavy lifting for him because when you look at I saw his completion percentage. His raw completion percentage was under 60% in this game. And his adjusted completion percentage was a 63.5%. So not exactly like a super efficient day from Jordan Love, but you go back and you watch the actual reps of him throwing the football and navigating the pocket and everything. He's so confident the whole time. And there are a couple of throws that, yeah, he misses, but there were a couple of rollout throws where, you know, he is getting out of the pocket. Whether it was escaping pressure or it was a design rollout, he is on the run and he's just firing the football to a spot where that wide receiver is coming across the field horizontally, and just the timing, the pace, the everything just perfect from him. So many big throws in this game. I will say the stat that told the story, though, it's 4th down for this Packers team. 3 4th down chances in this game. They were 3 for 3. 2 of them were touchdowns. The other one was the game-sealing throw to Dontavian Wicks. When you play a tight game against a really good opponent, how you perform on 4th down, because you know when you got a Dan Campbell game, he's going to push you to the limits. They're going to go for it on 4th down when it makes sense for them, and you're probably going to have to as well to keep pace with them. And I think that's also a little bit of how Detroit likes to keep you uncomfortable, is how aggressive they are, knowing that if they get it, not only did they get it, but then you probably have to start going for it in spots where it makes the most sense, because they're going to keep their foot on the gas. So 4th down was always going to be very, very important for this team in this game, and they went 3 for 3. Like I said, 2 of them were touchdowns, and the other one was the game-sealing play. So hats off to Jordan Love. Very confident, fun game to watch a player of his talent be able to play games like this. When he is this confident, he is a dangerous man. And the Packers are as well.
Absolutely. Credit the defensive side, and I know it's a high-scoring game here, but I also want to shout out Isaiah McDuffie at linebacker filling in for Quay Walker. He was just all over the place. There's 12 tackles, 7 total stops, 87.8 run defense grade, also a hit on Jared Goff. And something I want to point out one more time because it's the Lions. Now, in total, they went over 100 rushing yards. They had 119, but 24 of that came on that one Jared Goff scramble that it was the second longest run of his career. So under 100 designed rushing yards for the Lions in this game. Isaiah McDuffie, a big reason for that. Another game under 100 designed rushing yards. If I take out the Goff scramble, another game they lost. And I'm looking. Jared Goff was really good in this game. He was as good as he could be without Amon-Ra St. Brown. Jamison Williams was awesome.
That was tough. Losing Amon-Ra St. Brown, obviously a massive difference in
the same vein as I talked about the Colts earlier. You know what? You hold them under 100 yards rushing, and if Jared Goff beats you, he beats you. Fine. But I'll take my chances with that. Right. And that's what the Lions are right now.
Yep.
That's another game where under 100 designed rushing yards that they didn't come away with.
Chiefs and the Cowboys. Cowboys.
What a ball game this was.
Look out, Dalton.
Man.
31-28, this win over Kansas City. A game that Kansas City had to have, right? You're getting Kansas City's best. Now, it wasn't their best. We'll explain that in a second, but you were getting their best effort here. And Dallas stood tall, defended home turf on Thanksgiving. Their top 5 graded players: wide receiver CeeDee Lamb with a 79.1, offensive guard Tyler Booker a 78.9, edge rusher Donovan Ezaraku a 77.7, defensive tackle Osa Odigizua with a 76.0, and then defensive tackle Kenny Clark with a 76.0 as well. Dak Prescott in this game a 74.8. On Kansas City side of things, linebacker Nick Bolton, their top graded player, with a 90.7, wide receiver Marquise Brown with an 81.0. Center Creed Humphrey, a 76.2. Defensive tackle Chris Jones, a 75.3. And then safety Jaden Hicks, 75.0. Patrick Mahomes in this game with a 71.3 overall grade. Stats that told the story, Dalton.
Do you know why they pay Dak Prescott $60 million a year?
Probably because he's good. And I'm really tired of people just thinking that he plays for the Cowboys. LOL, Dak Prescott. He's not a good player.
It's for games just like this, too. Not only is he really good, but I think he's one of maybe only 6 or 8 quarterbacks in the league who could have won this game for the Cowboys.
I would have him right there in that ranking, so I would agree with you. 3rd
and 4th down in this game, 82.3 passing grade. And if I take out the interception on the very first 3rd down of the game, how about a 90.7 if I take out just that one throw? 12 of 16, 156 yards, 2 touchdowns. And I think the theme, the more I was watching the Cowboys, and we've had a lot of talks about the resurgence of Javonte Williams and the balance, and obviously CeeDee Lamb was a monster in this game. It's been George Pickens as well, Kevontae Turpin with a couple of big plays. But this game to me, and so often I talk about this, I feel like with half the Chiefs games we do, is can your quarterback handle what Steve Spagnuolo throws at you? Dak Prescott. Look, Spags did not make his life easy in this game. Prescott got blitzed on 51% of his dropbacks. That's insane. The coverage rotations, the different looks he was getting thrown at him, the simulated pressures, the blitzes that he was actually sending him. It was a ridiculously high IQ game played between Dak Prescott and Steve Spagnuolo, and Dak found a way to win it. I'm not going to tell you there wasn't times where it was a little bit frustrating because, man, that's just a great battle between 2 of the best in the business. But Dak Prescott, when it mattered most, on 3rd and 4th down especially, got the job done. And is this his highest graded game of the year? No, not necessarily, but I'm going to tell you right now, I'd give him an A+ for the way that he played. Beyond that first interception, first series of the game, it is what it is. You gave him 7, but he was terrific. I mean, just you could to go in. It was one of the most fun, actually, I think, offensive tapes for me to watch the entire year. To just watch this battle of what Spags was throwing at Dak on every friggin' snap, especially on 3rd down, and Dak trying to see the safeties and read it out, and then at times just go, you know what? I got these 2 freaks on the outside in Lamb and Pickens.
Yeah.
Let me just give them a shot. And those guys on the outside, my most disappointing I have down is the Chiefs corners between McDuffie and Watson, and Shamari Connor was playing the most in the slot.
Right.
But Lamb and Pickens won the battle on the outside too. It was just such a great battle to watch, but especially if you go back and, I mean, we could do a whole show, I'm telling you, on Dak versus Spags in this game because it was awesome to watch, and Dak won that battle.
On the other side of things, I think for the better part of the last year and a half, even when Micah Parsons was on the Dallas Cowboys last year, we talked about Dallas's defensive line is not having enough. We talked about how poor they were in run defense, how bad they were in the middle. Dalton, don't look now. But over the last 2 weeks, this has been one of the best defensive lines in the NFL. This game specifically, they had a 72.3 overall defensive line grade from their edge rushers and their defensive tackles. And if you take the last 2 weeks into account, 83.9 overall defensive grade. Quinnen Williams has made all the difference in the world for this team. He is elevating how Kenny Clark is playing, how Osa Odigizua is playing. Osa looks completely rejuvenated. He looks incredible out there. Donovan Ezaraku is playing very well. As an edge rusher, Sam Williams the week before was playing well. Now the linebacker level is getting a little bit more healthy, playing better behind them as well for that full front 7 look. The Dallas Cowboys defensive line was one of the worst in the NFL for the better part of the last 2 years. And now, over the last 2 weeks, with this new identity and these new players that they have acquired and young guys getting better, they have been one of the better defensive lines in the NFL. The midseason turnaround for this unit, a unit that subtracted Micah Parsons away from them, is playing at an incredibly high level. And it's a big reason why I think the Dallas Cowboys are able to stay as effective as they are on that defensive side of things and limit teams enough to where the offense is able to outscore them the way that we've seen over the last couple of weeks. I want to look up Dallas's schedule down the stretch.
Oh, big game this week, Thursday in Detroit. I know
so
that.
Dallas is currently 6-5-1. They are at Detroit this Thursday.
Well, if they win this week, if they go in there and win, and that defensive line is going to probably be the preview point for one of us, whichever one has Detroit's offense, because if they go in and win this week in Detroit, there's going to be a freak out coming.
Well, there's going to be a freak out coming because Philly is currently 8-4, okay? If Dallas wins this Thursday, they will be 7-5-1. They will then have the Vikings at home in Dallas, the Chargers at home in Dallas, at Washington, and then at New York, the Giants, to end the season.
And think about that group with this defensive line. And the Lions are banged up too now. And they're not getting Frank Ragnow on a grade 3 hamstring strain. But a lot of these offensive lines are banged up. Talk about the Chargers. It's the worst offensive line in football right now.
Now, the Eagles side of things, Chargers, Raiders, Commanders, Bills, Commanders. So I think that
Commanders with Jaden Daniels back by that
probably
point.
For both. The Commanders factors for all of these games because Dallas plays them once and then Philly plays them twice. I think Jaden's back for those games. And they're playing a little bit better as we saw from Sunday Night Football. If Dallas beats the Lions, we're going to have a dogfight till the end for who wins this division. We are going to have a dogfight, especially because that tie all of a sudden actually kind of helps the Eagles, or it helps the Cowboys.
Correct. The and one.
I hate it. Hate
it all you want. It's a huge factor.
It is. No, there's no question about it.
You want one more note on this D-line?
Sure.
Here we go. Since week 9, all right, the number 2 defensive line in the NFL since week 9 is the Cleveland Browns. Okay, that makes sense. 80.6 overall grade, all right? Number 1 is the Cowboys. I just said 80.6 for the Browns, all right? Number 1, Dallas Cowboys. Since week 9, 4 games for them. 89.5 as a unit. Ridiculous. Number 1 in run defense grade. I think 3 in pass rush grade. Quinnen, Ezeraku, Clowney, Osa, Kenny Clark, James Houston. He's been solid for him as a situational guy all year. They're all of a sudden loaded on their defensive line.
I didn't know Matt Eberflus had it in him.
And going to more, I didn't see the numbers. I need to check the numbers on it this week. And going to more 5-man fronts, messing around with it, getting those guys out there.
I didn't know Matt Eberflus had it in him.
I didn't think he did either 6 weeks ago when we were talking about it.
I know.
But when you got a million defensive linemen, you might as well put them on the field.
And
I got to check the splits on the 5-man fronts in this. Actually, no, it's something I did look at. No, that was the Eagles game. Sorry, the Eagles game, they used it a lot. I got to check it in this game.
Okay.
But even so, you're talking about significantly higher graded than the Cleveland Browns on the D-line when the first 8 weeks they were the worst in football. That's insane.
Cowboys are going to be fun now.
Don't let them win this week.
Don't let them win this week. If you want to see any other team on First Take get talked about, don't let them win this week.
And you're probably not going to get St. Brown playing.
That's right.
Oh,
right.
Boy.
Right.
Oh, this is going to be a fun week.
If they win this week, they're 7-5-1. That is crazy to say. Last game that we're talking about here on this show, the Bengals and the Ravens. The Bengals win in Baltimore 32-14. Joe Burrow's return here. Top 5 graded players for the Bengals. Edge rusher Joseph Osai with an 88.5. Cornerback DJ Turner II with a 78.4. Wide receiver Jamar Chase, 78.2. Cornerback Jalen Davis with a 77.5. And then cornerback Dax Hill with a 77.1. Joe Burrow in this game, a 79.6. On Baltimore side of things, defensive tackle Travis Jones, a 90.8. He's hitting free agency coming up. He might get a bag in a couple of months here. Linebacker Roquan Smith, an 84.1. Offensive tackle Roger Rosengarten, an 80.0. Safety Alohi Gilman with a 78.7. And then Kyle Hamilton with a 75.2. Quarterback Lamar Jackson in this game, a 42.2 overall grade. Could I just start with the quarterbacks? I think that's That's kind of where I want to start with this conversation. One, Burrow was tough in, I think it was the first quarter. We were talking about this before the show with the producers, and I think it was the first quarter versus everything else, or it might have been the first half versus the second half. But Burrow was elite in the second half.
Yes.
It was slow burn to start, and it was his first game back
shaking
in
the
a while.
rust off.
Right.
It really did felt like you got a first half of shaking the rust off.
But
for
he
sure.
was elite
Yep.
in the second half. Elite. And we quantify that by plus accuracy throws, or I'll quantify it by plus accuracy throws here. So at PFF, the way that we chart and grade throws is, of course, we have obviously like completion percentage, adjusted completion percentage, but we'll even take accuracy scores a touch further. So obviously an accuracy score is if you throw the ball in a way in which your wide receiver should catch the football. That is an accurate throw. Then we have plus accuracy throws, which are throws that not only are accurate that your wide receiver can catch, but also leads them away from defenders in a way where they can get yards after the catch. That is a plus accuracy throw. Joe Burrow this week, first week back, by the way, even with knocking off some rust at the beginning of the game, 35% plus accuracy throw percentage. Number one in the NFL this week.
That's silly.
I said to you last Wednesday as the preview, when I picked the Bengals, the reason why I'm picking the Bengals is because I understand he doesn't play linebacker. He doesn't change the defense. And the offense has been okay. The offense hasn't been the reason why the Bengals have been losing. But even so, there's a difference between when Joe Burrow's out there and whoever's out there. And 35% plus accuracy percentage is nuts. Now, on the other side of the coin, Lamar, who has struggled this year overall, but specifically kind of when he's been coming back from missing a couple of games, 38.7 uncatchable inaccurate throw percentage, which was the worst in the NFL in Week 13. Lamar's just off. And to me, this was a story of, there were other things that obviously went in this game. The Ravens' turnovers are a big reason why they ended up losing. But these are two very opposite ends of the spectrum with how these two quarterbacks played this game. Lamar had a ton of inaccurate throws, and Joe Burrow not only had accurate throws, but plus accuracy throws that gave his players the ability to get a lot of yards after catch and make some big plays. For two good teams, even independent of the turnovers, I think it's a big reason why this game ended up being the way that it was.
The Ravens in general, I'm going to go into that, and it's going to tie eventually into my most impressive here. The Ravens in general have a big problem with their drop-back passing game.
Yeah, totally.
It's Lamar Jackson is the third highest graded play-action passer in the NFL. Okay, cool. That's great. All right, you get Derrick Henry going a little bit. You get heavy formations, the tight ends. The good things we've been talking about with all the play action in the Ravens offense. Lamar Jackson this season, Trevor, without play action, has a 45.5 passing grade. That is the worst in the NFL. Out of 42 guys qualified there. The lowest non-play action passing grade in the NFL. And it's not just him. Their their drop back game right now. The timing's off. It's not creative, and the receivers are not separating at all. Right now, aside from Zay Flowers, and even him, he's not one of those high-end Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase type of receivers. They are not separating on the outside, whether that's Rashad Bateman, if that's DeAndre Hopkins, if they get Tez Walker going out there. The tight ends, obviously the tight ends put up good numbers in this game. Isaiah Likely with the big game. The Bengals can't cover tight ends. We know this. But in general, they really have not been separating one-on-one as much, and Mark Andrews slowing down prevents them from putting him out in the slot and in different places where they've liked to put him in the past. This is a real issue.
Yeah.
This is a serious problem. The Ravens, without play action, I'm going to go further on this because Lamar has the lowest passing grade without play action in the league. Offensive grade in general, 29th. EPA per play, 26th. Yards per attempt, 25th. Explosive pass rate, 29th. Basically, that offensive grade being 29th. I believe the three teams below them are the Raiders, Titans, and Browns. That's what they look like when they drop back right now without play action. This is an issue. This passing game is a real problem. And the fact that the run game is not as dominant as it was last year, and you're basically solely reliant on play action, which, play action's great, obviously, especially from under center. But when you're solely reliant on play action for big plays, you have a problem. And you fall behind in a game like this.
Right.
You have a real problem. And my most impressive, right on the other side of that, You saw 3 Bengals corners in the top 5 graded players for them. Was Dax Hill, DJ Turner,
yeah.
and Jalen Davis making his second career start in the slot. Bengals corners in this game, Josh Newton played a little bit too. How about an 86.5 combined coverage grade? Giving up 6 catches for 49 yards the entire game. The Bengals corners have been the one redeeming part of this defense. They're now 6th in the league as a unit as in coverage grade. They have the same coverage grade as the Houston Texans. If Al Golden's got nothing else right now, he's got corners.
Yeah.
And then you get the game of his life from Joseph Osai.
Yep.
The linebackers are what they are. But the Bengals won, not Burrow.
Jordan Battle forcing the fumble.
Biggest play of the game.
Oh, right, honestly, it was.
Jalen Davis forcing a fumble way later in the game, too. I mean, you got a group of corners you can live with. They just need to be respectable up front, and maybe they've got a shot. And again, the Bengals don't need to be the greatest defense ever.
Right.
They need to be kind of like we talked about the Texans O-line before, right? If the Bengals are 18th in a defense in all the defensive categories, they're going to be awesome because they have Joe Burrow.
Well, they're 2 games out of the division lead right now. The Steelers look like they're heading in the wrong direction, and we just mentioned the Ravens have been turning around in the win column, but you don't feel great about it. The Bengals have 5 games left. The best they can finish is 9-8. But there's a world where 9-8 wins this division.
Oh, I think that 9-8 is going to be the record to win this division.
But that's what I'm saying. And like they have an opportunity to hit it.
They got
and they will. I don't think they'll own the tiebreaker over the Steelers, right? Because they split the series, but they didn't beat the Steelers as big as the Steelers beat them. Does that go?
No, the next one would be its division record overall. The 6 games, whatever your division record is the next one. So
what's their division record?
In
division. They're 3-1.
Right.
They're 3-1, and they have the Ravens and the Browns still left.
Right.
The Bengals have a chance to not only get to 9 wins, but even if they're at 8 wins, if 8 wins is what wins this division, they'll own the tiebreakers against the teams that they'll be going up against.
They're another one. We got a few games like this. The Dallas game, the Houston game with Kansas City, and they're playing Buffalo here in Cincinnati this week. All I'm going to say, if you're the Bills, don't let the Bengals. Oh, it's in Buffalo? Okay, sorry. I thought it was here. All right, and then they come back here and play Baltimore the week after that. Okay, I thought they had 2 home games. But either way, in Buffalo is a tough task for sure. But you got
Joe Burrow, you can beat anybody.
Absolutely. He's done it. He's gone up there and won before. We remember
true.
that. I mean, if the Bengals mess around and go to Buffalo and win that game, and then they get the Ravens back here in Cincinnati the week after, you have a situation.
This is going to be so fun.
It's a lot of if, but we got a lot of big games this week coming, Trevor. This preview, we're going to have a hell of a lot of fun with this preview.
That we just mentioned. The Patriots and the Bills coming down to the wire for who wins that division. Obviously, the AFC North, what we just talked about there. The AFC South, the Texans, the Colts, the Jags, who's going to win that division. It feels like the Denver Broncos are probably going to win that division, but it could come down to the very end. We just mentioned that Dallas is trending up. Philly's trending down. Could Dallas even win that spot? We know that the NFC North is going to be a dogfight to the very end. We got Carolina and Tampa Bay playing in 2 of the last 3 games of that season to see who goes to the playoffs there. And then, of course, we got the Rams, we got the Seahawks, and we got the 49ers. This league's wide open, man. This is going to be so much fun to watch over the next couple of weeks. We appreciate everybody watching the show here for Week 13 as we covered every single game but one. We got the Patriots and the Giants obviously coming up in Monday Night Football. Like we said, this is the last day for the Black Friday sale. Get yourself a PFF Plus subscription for 40% off if you don't have it right now. This is one of the biggest sales that we run. Now's the best time to get on it. You get so much stuff. You get to see all the grades that we talked about here on this show. You guys saw us walk you through some premium stats and how to look those things up. You get all those data points that we mentioned as well. The fantasy football tools, the player prop tool, the draft tool, all that great stuff as well. If you use 40% off with the promo code Black Friday, it's $6 a month. That's it. $6 a month for all the stats and everything that you could possibly want. If you'd love to get involved with us here on this show and at PFF, sales at PFF.com, we would love to talk to you guys. Man, excited about this game here on Monday Night Football. Really excited to get to next week's slate as well. It's going to be a ton of fun. For everybody behind the glass who helped produce the show, for Dalton Wasserman, I'm Trevor Sikkema saying thank you guys so much for watching the PFF NFL show. We will see you guys for the preview show on Wednesday. See you guys then.